See, I'm going to hand you over to our sonny Greg Hughes this morning. Greg, well done on the weekend in London.
Thanks, Lee. We had a great time over there.
God, it's massive over there, isn't it?
It's huge.
Do you know, you painted a great picture, on the radio, but when you see the social feeds, do you know the videos and stuff, you go, wow, this is massive.
Yeah, the weather was absolutely amazing, though, so they can organise everything as brilliant as they do.
You had no sun cream or nothing?
Yeah, well, why would you even talk about that?
No, because you said that on the radio. That proves that I was listening. You said we come over here, we don't even have sun cream.
Yes, but I didn't really check the weather forecast, but it was amazing. So well done to Brendan Tiny Bohan and Maureen and all the other crew for putting on a fantastic show. It really was.
You were a wee bit tired coming in that door. You yawned about 3 times this morning.
Fine.
No.
Fine.
Yeah.
You need to get yourself a wee filter going.
I know. Yeah, a big filter maybe.
No.
You need a big stick and just prod me if I go any direction I shouldn't be going.
It's a long journey home. All right.
All right. Yeah. All right.
Thanks, Lee. That's Lee Gooch back with you tomorrow morning, bright and early, of course, as always, from 6:30. It's 9 o'clock. Let's get a news update, and it's over to Donald Kavanagh.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning. It's understood a centre for Ukrainian refugees is to be opened in South Donegal. The former Ringford Inn building has been offered for use. A planning application for renovations is now with Donegal County Council. With the details, here's Michaela Clark.
The Department of Children, Equality, Disability, Integration and Youth has confirmed that the former Ringford Inn property in Brooklis has been offered to the department for the accommodation of beneficiaries of temporary protection from Ukraine. A spokesperson says it has been passed on to the Department of Housing as the accommodation is in need of refurbishment. No further details as to when the centre will be open or how many people will be housed there is currently available. A planning application is with Donegal County Council for a 16 ensuite bedroom extension of the building, along with the extension of the hotel entrance lobby, dining room entrance lobby and kitchen stores, as well as the development of a detached general store building. Sleeve League Hotel Limited has also applied to upgrade the access road, install boundary fencing, leisure decks, access paths, landscape gardens and plantation, signage and external lighting.
2 men have been injured in a shooting in Belfast. It happened in the Romania Rise area in the west of the city at around 10:30 last night. Both men suffered 1 gunshot wound each in the leg. They've been taken to hospital. The PSNI is investigating. A quarter of primary-aged children and 40% of secondary-aged pupils in Ireland have experienced cyberbullying. The latest report from CyberSafe Kids shows girls are more likely than boys to be victimised online, with the posting of pictures without permission, creation of fake social media profiles and exclusion from chat groups, the most commonly experienced forms of online abuse. 93% of 8 to 12-year-olds have access to a smart device, with 31% saying they're allowed to go online whenever they like. The CEO of CyberSafe Kids, Alex Cooney, says children must be encouraged to speak out if they're being attacked online.
This is really concerning, especially as it relates to more serious and more persistent cases. We'd really urge parents, teachers to encourage children to come forward, to be upstanders for other children, so that if they see something that's not right, that they do report it to a trusted adult, so that we can really try and reduce these numbers of children who are experiencing harm online.
And more Gardaí are to be deployed to the roads policing unit in a bid to tackle the increased number of deaths on Irish roads. Justice Minister Helen McEntee was speaking as the latest National Slow Down Day campaign came to an end at 7 this morning. By 9 last night, 310 drivers had been caught speeding, including one person doing 161 kilometres per hour in a 100 km zone in County Louth. A number of detections were also made in Donegal. Minister McEntee says Gardaí are being given the resources to ensure they can protect all road users.
I have said consistently I want more Gardaí full stop out on the beat doing their job. Obviously where they go to then is a matter for the Garda Commissioner, but it's my ambition to make sure in the coming months we have as many members of An Garda Síochána that then will allow the Garda Commissioner to deploy them to units like the roads policing unit.
Dry today with long spells of hazy sunshine, top temperatures 22 to 26 degrees Celsius in moderate easterly breezes. And that's Highland Radio News. Back with more at 10. Until then, from the news team, good morning.
Apply online for learner permit and driving licence services, including renewals, updates, exchanges and replacements. It's easy and hassle-free. Visit NDLS online today at ndls.rsa.ie. Verified MyGov ID required. A message from the Road Safety Authority.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio. And now, it's time for the talk of the Northwest, The 9 to Noon Show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Hello, good morning. It's just turned 4 minutes past 9 on this Tuesday, the 5th of September 2023. You're very welcome along to another edition of The 9 till Noon Show. Thanks so much to Donald Kavanagh for sitting in for me yesterday, but it's great to be back, and we are open for business. The WhatsApp text line open for you right now, 086 60 25,000, 086 60 25,000. If you're outside the Republic, 00353 86 60 25,000. And for your telephone calls, 074 91 25,000. And you can email us as well, comments at highlandradio.com. And if you want to watch the show, you can do so on your smart TV or your Fire Stick, your phone, laptop, tablet, on YouTube, Highland Radio Ireland, and we're across the Facebook pages here as well. So no excuses not to be involved. You can send messages to us there as well. All right, let's have a look at what's making the front and inside some of today's newspapers. We'll start with the Donegal Democrat. Glencolm Kilman has appeared in court charged with 21 burglaries across Donegal. Timmy O'Gara was brought before Letterkenny District Court on Thursday morning in connection with the burglaries, which occurred over a 3-month period between May and July of this year. O'Gara, a 20-year-old from Drimrow, Glencolmkill, did not speak during the brief hearing before Judge Kieran Liddy. O'Gara was arrested on August 4th and subsequently charged following a planned operation by officers in the Ballyshannon Garda district. On to the Nationals now, and you heard this mentioned on the news with Donal. The use of speed detection cameras operating on Irish roads is to rise by 20% following agreement between Minister for Justice Helen McEntee and Garda Commissioner Drew Harris to increase funding for the Go Safe service by €1.2 million. Do you believe that this is an effective plan to deal with these the issues that we have on our roads? Do you believe the Go Safe vans are the solution to this? The government clearly do, as does Garda Commissioner Drew Harris, as they're investing quite heavily in it. The announcement came as Gardaí conducted a national slowdown day yesterday to reinforce the message that speed kills. The first 10 hours of the initiative saw Go Safe cameras checked the speed of 103,000 vehicles, detecting 250 which were travelling in excess of the applicable speed limit. So it is a tiny proportion of people that are being detected by Go Safe vans. As I say, they clocked over almost 104,000 vehicles, and of those, 250 were travelling in excess of the speed. In terms of percentages, what is that? And does that mean that all the other drivers are really safe drivers and only 250 are not? Or is it the fact that the 250 didn't know the speed van was there? Do you get where I'm coming from? Like, we have to do something. I just wonder if this looks good, but would it be effective? Examples of high speed include a motorist doing 161 in a 100 zone in County Louth. Another person was detected doing 155 in a 120 kilometre zone. That was in County Westmeath. There were a few detections here in Donegal as well. Now, another story referenced in the news but jumped out at me from the Irish Independent. The shocking levels of cyberbullying contact from strangers and exposure to sexual or violent content that Ireland's 8 to 16-year-olds face online is detailed in a new report. So these are children aged from 8 to 16. 1 in 4, 25% of children aged 8 to 12 experienced online bullying in the past year. And it was even worse for 12 to 16-year-olds, with 2 in 5, 40% victimised. Like, these are some of the great challenges that are facing our young people. And I do know there's an awful lot of focus on protecting children and what might be harmful to them. And it's an ongoing debate across the country, seemingly. But the real big threat, I think, is right here, right in their hand. Girls suffered most. 43% of 8 to 16-year-olds reported that they were targets, compared to 30% of boys. Again, to remind you, 8 to 16-year-olds. Posting pictures without permission, creation of fake profiles, and being excluded from chat groups were among the most commonly reported forms of cyberbullying. Other risks highlighted in the report include the extent to which 8 to 12-year-olds are vulnerable to contact from people they do not know and potential grooming. These are 8 to 12-year-olds. As many as 42% of young boys and 27% of girls have gamed with a stranger online, according to the annual trends and usage report from the online safety charity Cyber Safe Kids. So that is huge numbers of young people potentially being exposed to very unpleasant situations on the internet. Much coverage across all the papers today of a huge turnout for the Wolf Tones. Veteran folk act The Wolf Tones have astonished music lovers by attracting one of the largest crowds in the 14-year history of Electric Picnic's Electric Arena. More than 20,000 festival goers attended the arena tent on Sunday to hear their well-known rebel songs as the festival drew to a close in Stradbally, County Laois. Crowds of all ages began arriving to see them almost an hour before the band, who formed in 1963, took to the stage. Hundreds could not gain access to the tent, so sang along from outside. Prior to belting out Celtic Symphony, which it's with its controversial ooh-ah up the rah refrain, frontman Brian Warfield said to the crowd, "Never tell an Irish person they can't sing a song, because you know that they'll do it. They'll go out and they'll sing it over and over again just to spite you." The Irish women's soccer team, of course, had to apologise for singing the song after they qualified for the World Cup last year. On Twitter, currently known as X, the band said, "Electric Picnic Festival, thank you for having us tonight. Thank you to the massive crowds who thronged the Electric Arena tent. We are truly humbled. Our sincerest thanks." But of course, you know, young people are going to go and have a bit of fun and sing. I don't think when they sing those refrains, I don't think they're making a statement as such. They're just having fun. But people look on and go, now I'm not saying it's right or wrong, it's not for me to do so, but, you know, then people go, oh, you can't do that, and they look on and they give out, but they don't really understand. I don't think they really understand. Right, let's go now to the Irish Daily Star, and the pressure has finally made Simon Byrne buckle. He's resigned as the Chief Constable of the PSNI following a string of controversies, stating that it's time for someone new to lead policing in the North. The news that the embattled police chief has left with immediate effect was announced at a press conference yesterday by Policing Board Chair Deirdre Toner, who said Mr Byrne had tendered his resignation with immediate effect. News of the resignation has been welcomed by DUP leader Sir Geoffrey Donaldson, who said it was the first step in rebuilding confidence in the force. SDLP leader Colm Eastwood said confidence in Mr Byrne had been irreparably shattered. Mr Byrne faced a number of recent challenges, including the fallout from a PSNI data breach in which details of all officers were released online. It's complicated, though, to replace him, because I think that has to be okayed or signed off by the executive, but we know there is no executive functioning in Northern Ireland, so presumably I have to come up with some other plan to sign someone up to replace him. Luke Flanagan, his ex-assistant, has gone on trial accused of hacking the MEP's Twitter account. This is in the Sun. There's a few people commented about this at the time, and they could find themselves in trouble too. Dermot Hayes allegedly posted an offensive tweet about former Green Party candidate Saoirse McHugh. The post, which appeared in the early hours of September 28th, 2020, read, "Saoirse McHugh photo skinny dipping," and however it was phrased, I think it was designed to give the impression that Luke Flanagan, who hadn't, by the way, that Luke Flanagan was searching online and accidentally put it into Twitter. Well, it led some people to believe that the person operating the account was searching for photos, as I mentioned, of the ex-Green politician. The post was quickly deleted, and the independent Midlands North West MEP immediately claimed he was hacked. He contacted police in Belgium, who launched an investigation, and his ex-assistant Hayes, who had worked with Ming between 2018 and 2019, yesterday appeared in court accused of posting the damaging tweet. But as I say, you know, everything you say online potentially has consequences, and a lot of people jumped on that, and they could be getting little letters through the post themselves too. Finally, Irish people are generally happy with their own bodies and are in the top 10 of nationalities content with their own physiques, a global study has revealed. And this is in the Irish Mirror. A survey of 57,000 studied in 65 nations saw the Irish come 8th behind Egypt, but before Poland. The Maltese were happiest with how their bodies looked, with Taiwan in second place and Bangladesh in third. At the other end of the scale, the US, France and Brazil were all at the bottom of the 10, with the UK second from last. The research from Anglia Ruskin University in England found that a positive body image is strongly associated with better psychology, well-being and life satisfaction. So we as a nation are happy with our physiques, according to that study. Much happier than some other nations anyway. Okie doke, that was a run through what is making the papers this morning. If you want to comment on any of that, please feel free to do so. 086 60 25,000, that's the WhatsApp and text, or give us a call on 074 91 25,000. Now, as we head into the break, talking about our physiques, maybe if you're one of those that's not 100% happy with your physique and you want to do something about it. Well, we've linked up with Fit20 for a great giveaway on the 9 till noon show all of this week. Here are the details.
On this week's show with...
Actually, I'll start that again. The volume is incredibly low. Here are the details of the competition.
On this week's show, with thanks to Fit20, we're giving you the chance to win a 3-month membership. Get stronger in just 20 minutes with Fit20. Train once a week with a personal trainer in a climate-controlled gym. To win this prize, simply answer a question each day. An overall winner will then be selected on Friday. Today's question is: who is the Donegal GAA manager? Is it A, Jim McGuinness, or B, Declan Bonner? Text or WhatsApp your answer, name and address to 086 60 25,000.
The 9 till noon show in association with Fit20 Letterkenny. Get fitter and stronger in just 20 minutes. Train once a week with a personal trainer in a climate-controlled gym. Increase strength at any age. Visit fit20.ie to book your free session.
In the next 15 seconds, you're going to find out where is the best place in the Northwest to buy a bed or mattress. It's Restex Beds and Furniture Mountaintop, Letterkenny, where comfort meets style.
Autumn is here and so are the new arrivals at Green Shoes. Shop in store or online now from top brands like Doc Martens, Kate Appleby, Tommy Bow and Riker. Also New Balance, Wonders, Echo and many more. Shop LK and one for all gift cards accepted in store. Visit Green Shoes and discover the perfect footwear to complement your style. Green Shoes at Market Square, Letterkenny Shopping Centre, Fulcara and online at greenshoes.com.
The Rent-A-Room Relief Scheme is now open, and you could earn up to €14,000 a year tax-free by renting a room in your home to a student. This scheme is open to everyone and won't affect your payments if you're in receipt of social welfare support. Find out more at gov.ie/room for a student, an initiative of the Government of Ireland.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel Route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin when you book online and travel for less. Expressway, bringing you the time at...
OK, the time is just approaching 17 minutes past 9. We got contact last week and it read as follows. Could you address why a day hospital in Carndonagh no longer exists? There was a day centre in Carndonagh Community Hospital pre-COVID, but it never reopened after COVID. People of age and disability attended 5 days a week. A dinner was provided, paid for by the clients, a nurse, and access to a doctor was also available. The clients also played bingo and had a sing-song, so giving entertainment to all who attended. Since COVID, everyone was left to their own devices. Loneliness and a lack of everyday medical observation is leaving these citizens isolated and alone. Can you please address with the appropriate people? So, following on from that, there was already a meeting scheduled. The hospital group met on September the 1st, I believe, and we're joined by a couple of guests to discuss this. We'll say good morning to Tony Doherty, Chair of the Restoration of the Carndonagh Day Care Services, and Councillor Albert Doherty as well. Both of you, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Greg.
I'll start with you, Tony, if that's okay. I mean, as far as the contact we've had there from that listener, that's about right, isn't it? That's where we were, and this is where we're at.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very good summary of where we're at. I mean, COVID was obviously a very difficult period for everybody. The Carndonagh daycare services closed because of COVID in March 2020, and rightly so. But then as things moved on in the summer of 2021, the services were being opened across the country. In fact, Mary Butler, who's the Minister for Older People, tweeted in May 2021 that services would start to be opened in the summer of 2021. And she also said that any services that needed any remediation would be in place by the end of 2021. And the situation is that we, the people of, I would say, all of Inishowen, and I think Donegal as well, but particularly North Inishowen, have been left without a service from that time. And, you've introduced the whole subject very well there in relation to COVID and loneliness. And, we're talking about our most senior people in society. These are the people that filled the potholes. These are the people that educated us. These are the people that made us who we are. And this daycare service is like a last dance for these people. We owe it to them. And it's an absolute shame at this stage that over 2 years on from the reopening of daycare services across the island, that we still don't have daycare services in North Inishowen. And what we're doing is we're saying enough's enough, because I've been in contact with the HSE, with the Minister for the last 2 years, and what we're saying is enough, and what we're calling upon is to have a meeting, and we're calling on people from all across Inishowen to come to the Colgan Hall on Friday, October the 6th at 7:30 p.m. and to show their support for this issue, because we're really getting over with the authorities on this.
And the impact it's had on people is impossible to quantify, because it's specific to each person. But obviously, in terms of proper care and activity and a quality of life, that the individuals that would have been able to in the past access these services. But then, other than that, it's the impact it has on their family and the people around them, and, missed opportunities, feeling like time has been taken away. Do you know what I mean? It's hard to quantify the real impact this is having on people.
Absolutely. And I mean, when you get to that age, all right, time is of the essence, It's not as if, by not, that we'll get these services up and running next year or in 2 years' time and everything will be okay. It has to be now. These older people don't have that time. I mean, I'll share with you my own personal experience with it, where my father, Henry, prior to COVID, used to avail of the services 3 days per week. And I should say the people who run the service, the nurses and the rest of the staff, are absolutely fantastic people. It's a real vocation, and these people have been fantastic. But in my father's situation, 3 days per week, he attended the service in Carndona prior to COVID. And after COVID, he was receiving no care, as I've kind of outlined there, right? So what I had to do was to get in contact with Sage Advocacy, who are a national organisation, and they were able to secure 1 day for my father in the North Pole Centre between Carndona and Buncrana. In actual fact, my father would have needed 5 days care at that stage. So there's an actual story for you, if you like, as to the level of service. And it's only because I was banging a drum and got that national organisation involved that my dad, in effect, got 20% of what he would have needed at that time. And there are many people I know that were getting zero help and care.
Mm-hmm. I know also too that since your father has passed away, my condolences to you, Tony. What do you think, if he'd received the 5-day care service, what difference might it have made to him or the family?
Well, I mean, you can imagine, an old man sitting at home for 16 hours, sits 16 hours a day looking at a television screen. It breaks my heart that was the case, all right? Because, as you know, with family, life goes on and we all have work to do and we have other responsibilities. But, it was great that Dad had that 1 day in the North Pole Centre. But the reality is, Dad fell into sort of very ill health, in February of this year. And the decision was made by me that Dad went into full-time care in April. Now, if daycare services had been available for Dad 5 days per week, he may not have gone into that full term, into a nursing home. Obviously, it wasn't just daycare services, because you've got to look at, his safety and stuff like that. But it was a big contributing factor into Dad going into full-term residential care at the start of April, which, by the way, he absolutely hated it. And that's the reality of what happened there. But we're kind of here, I think, this morning talking about the people who don't have a voice, the old people who are nestled in the side of hills across Inishowen and across Donegal. And as we know, we have a big immigration thing in Donegal, and these people don't have maybe family members who can advocate for them. But even if they are advocating for them, as I've just outlined, it's still only getting 20% in my situation of the care that is needed. And I think in many cases people are just getting no care at all. And this is a time whenever we have the money in this country. We're able to find the money for other things which are important. But for our own people, our most important group of people in our society, I mean, a measure of who we are as people and who we are as a society is how we treat our old people. And I think we're falling way, way short in that. And that's why we're kind of saying enough's enough. I mean, I don't want to be on the radio this morning talking about this, right? But I feel it's necessary that we have to say enough's enough. Like, the time for talking is over.
Councillor Albert Doherty is with us too, has been listening to Tony. Councillor Doherty, I know in front of and behind the scenes an awful lot of effort has been put into see these day services restored. I don't think this is a political issue. I can't imagine there's anyone listening to this right now of any political party, if none, that would not like to see these services restored. But what's happening here? Why have you been able to determine why are we not seeing at least some level of restoration of these services?
Yeah, thank you, Greg. Greg, Tony has articulated a very personal story, and when he talked about the lifting of the COVID restrictions, many families had contacted me and said, Mum, Dad, they would love again to have the access to the daycare centre in Carndonagh. And from 2021, I, as a member of the Regional Health Forum, have brought this to the attention of all members. And you're correct, I've had full cross-party support from the 5 Donegal members and from the Regional Health Forum members at these meetings. But we need community care, and we need the HSE to step up to the plate in this. They know the message that's coming from North Inishowen. They say that now, in response to my number of motions and questions, that HSE estates and the Infection Prevention Control Team are undertaking a review of the premises to determine its suitability as a potential daycare centre in the future. Well, I can tell them it has served the community well, as been highlighted by Tony there.
Do you believe that's a stalling tactic?
I do. I do believe it's a stalling, and the item that when potential funding becomes available, the funding is surplus to requirement in many, many aspects as they bring in their tax nets, etc., and we want the dignity of our older people to be recognised. But I want to say one other item as well. I've had a lengthy conversation with some of the GPs in the area, and the GPs have told me that the lack of availability of access in this facility is also taking its toll. And when we look at the integrated care pathway for older people and all the aspirations that HSE has, the fact that our people are being isolated, that they're alone, we aren't stepping up to the plate. I brought this up through motion and question, and I'll be bringing it up again until there's a resolution that sees the facility available for and at Carndonagh.
If there was a will, do you believe there is a way, or do you think there's a recruitment issue here, a staffing issue, really, that's at the core of this problem?
If there's a will, I believe there is a way. And at the last meeting in July, I got a lengthy report back in relation to why HSC infection control team advised that it was unsuitable in the COVID-19 time. The bullet points that they give, I believe all can be responded to if the will is there to deliver. And with the community, with the committee, and with the GP staff, I will be hoping that we all can ensure that that day comes sooner rather than later.
But it has to, Tony, as you pointed out, this is something that is needed right now. There's hundreds of families, or dozens of them at least, across the peninsula that are, you know, maybe even seeing their loved ones deteriorate. As you rightly pointed out, you know, we're all standing on their shoulders effectively, and we are really judged as to how we treat the most vulnerable or elderly people. This is something that needs immediate action.
Well, particularly as we sort of said there, right, you know, these are old people, right, and, you know, time is of the essence getting this sorted out. You know, there's been nothing but smoke and mirrors that I have got from Mary Butler's office, from the HSE, from the OPW. I kind of want to resist the urge to give you examples of it here, right, because I don't want to go down that track, right, because, you know, I want to try and keep this up a level, right, and I want people to come to the Colgan Hall from all across Inishowen, because it's a knock-on effect. If you're living in Burnfoot or living in Fawn, this affects you as well, because the amount of services has a knock-on effect. It's a domino effect across the whole of Inishowen. And by the way, there's a shortage in Buncrana as well. This is not just a Carndonagh. This is Moville. This is Mallinhead, Kildare, Kilmany, Muff, all the way right across Inishowen. I mean, there's 22 or 23 different daycare centres in the whole of Donegal. Right, Carndonagh is the fifth biggest by population, and there's nothing here, right? And there's nothing north of Carndonagh. There's nothing in Malin or anywhere else, right? So it needs to be reinstated, and it needs to be reinstated now. And we, as a community, are not putting up with it any longer. Someone said to me at the meeting that we, as a community, have been asleep on this issue. And what I'm kind of saying to the listeners out there today is, you know, yes, we probably have been asleep, right? But let's waken up and let's get to the Colgan Hall, and let's show the HSE that we are not taking this anymore, and show the government that we're not taking this anymore. It's not acceptable. It's not acceptable. As I said at the start, a measure of any society is how we treat our old people. We all have old people, and we all know that people are living longer, thankfully. So we only need more of this service, not less of the service.
Okay, and of course too, I'm sure the likes of Letterkenny University Hospital would be very keen to see these services up and running, as well as the local GPs, as you mentioned. So there's a public meeting on Friday evening in the Colgan Hall, you say, Tony. Everybody invited?
That's right, Greg, on October the 6th. At 7:30 p.m.
Oh, it's a month out from now. Okay, so there's plenty of notice. My apologies. Okay, yeah. So October 6th, the Colgan Hall at 7:30
p.m.
7:30 p.m. Okay, sure. You'll remind us closer to the time, won't you?
We will, Greg. And thanks very much for taking up this very important issue. And I'd just like to say, I'd like to thank Albert as well. Albert's been fantastic in keeping this issue through alive through his work.
Yep. Okay. Thank you very much indeed, Tony, and Albert. Thank you very much indeed for your time as well.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Greg. What I would just like to say there is that the response and answer received on July from the HSE, Greg, read that the Infection Prevention Control Team have been requested to review the current location for potentially developing an area to meet the infection prevention control recommendations, and that this will be dependent on available funding. There must not be a price put on what we hope to deliver in our community for the elderly, and the location has medical assistance nearby, as it being a community hospital. So I too want to be associated with what Tony said. Thank you for raising the matter today, and we will keep you briefed. Please. Because we are just at the end of the beginning in this campaign.
Yeah, it's vital you do. Okay, thank you very much indeed, Councillor Albert Doherty there. People texting in support. This service must be resumed immediately, causing many negative issues for the elderly of our area. Daycare services at St Joseph's Stranola closed this last few years. They don't have a hope of it opening again. All right, 086 60 25,000. Keep your calls and comments coming in on that. Just before we take a break, I want to mention Donegal Down Syndrome Association. We talked about this on the programme previously, but it's just to give you a reminder that the Donegal Down Syndrome Association, with support from Down Syndrome Ireland, are exploring possibilities for providing employment opportunities for adults with Down syndrome. They're holding an information session in the Station House, Letterkenny, this coming Thursday from 10:30am to 12:30pm. Employment specialists from Down Syndrome Ireland will be in attendance. We'd greatly appreciate if you or a member of your team could attend. If you're unable to attend on the day but are interested in learning more, we can arrange a follow-up discussion with you. And we did have a really quite detailed conversation on this issue last week. So for further information, you can contact the Donegal Down Syndrome office, High Road, Letterkenny, 074 91 03527. So that's that event in the Station House Hotel, Letterkenny, on Thursday from 10:30am to 12:30pm.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
The 9 till noon show in association with Fit20 Letterkenny. Get fitter and stronger in just 20 minutes. Train once a week with a personal trainer in a climate-controlled gym. Increase strength at any age. Visit fit20.ie to book your free session.
The sounds of laughter, the words of a friend, your favourite song. Sounds mean so much to us, and our world grows smaller if we experience hearing loss. At Hidden Hearing, you can trust our expert audiologists to help, with a no-quibble 90-day money-back guarantee to ensure peace of mind. Visit www.hiddenhearing.ie or call 1850 21 44 88. Hidden Hearing. Life is worth hearing.
Mr. Blue Sky, please tell us why.
The Euro Millions jackpot is a guaranteed €17 million. Play responsibly in-store, in-app or at lottery.ie. The National Lottery. It could be you.
Okay, you're very welcome back. A caller says, Tony, you are totally right. I think it's diabolical the way our older people have been treated since COVID. We can find money for other things, but not for our health system. The health system is in crisis. The government's failure is evident in all our health system. Our politicians are turning a blind eye to everything and not standing up for the people. Government have serious questions to answer as they're putting us all at risk. A caller says the day centre in Ramelton is not open since COVID either. And another caller says the day centre in St Connell's is not open and it is badly needed. Wants to know why this is all since COVID is long over now. I don't know what is going on across then the services. Let's not forget last week we were talking about services for children, speech therapy and what have you. It starts off with letters received in one part of the county, and then you realise that parents right across the county are receiving the same. And now, of course, we start talking about day care services in Correndonagh, and it turns out that so many people right across the county are being similarly affected. Why are these services not open? What changed since COVID? 086 60 25,000. A caller says they've no bother finding places for Ukrainian people. This is what COVID was all about, to close these places and other places. Also, the whole thing's a complete setup. Look at the state of this country at the moment since we called COVID. It's plain to see COVID was a way to destroy this country and every other country. Also, just take a step back and weigh it all up. Okay, that's your view. In terms of supporting or accommodating Ukrainian people, it's very different because you take the top floor of a hotel, and in terms of support staff, I think providing proper safe daycare services for older people would require multidisciplinary team and so on and so forth. A couple of warnings from listeners. Greg, warn people about buying tickets online, which is not an official site. I know people who bought them for Electric Picnic, and when they got to the gate, they discovered they were fake and left out of pocket and out of the festival. Oh, my word, that would have been a heartbreak to make your way all the way down there and get yourself in as far as the gate. Were you caught out by fake Electric Picnic tickets? Let us know. 086 60 25,000. Another, is this a new telephone scam? I got a phone call saying they were from the 3 Loyalty team. They knew my name and address, but it sounded suspicious, so I hung up, and an online search for the number said it is a scam, but where 3 phone provider hacked. How else would they know my name and address? Well, unfortunately, most of our names and addresses are out there. They've been hacked from one company or another. You obviously are a 3 customer, so maybe that's the random element of it. If they called me, I'd go, well, I'm not with 3, and that would be the end of it. So I'm not sure if it's a scam. The number's 061 203 061. Sounds like a kind of a catchy number, but they can clone any number now. So if you've any advice or experience of that for that listener, please let us know. A caller says, more camera vans are not needed. More guards on the street are what's needed. Our population has increased significantly and we have less guards than ever, they say. Another, honestly, Greg, we need to start thinking about immigration again, because if you're Irish, you get nothing for your taxes and have no rights. And a lot of people seemingly starting to feel a little bit like that. Okay, next on the programme is Sinead. Sinead, thanks for holding. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Craig.
Right, now, difficult experience for you and your family. It all started around about 8 weeks ago. Can you tell us what happened?
About 8 weeks ago, my young daughter was experiencing headaches for a couple of days. She went into work on a Thursday, and she says the only way she could describe it was somebody punched her in the side of the head, which collapsed. She was taken to hospital to discover she had a stroke. She was kept on for a couple of days. They done MRIs and whatever other tests. We went back for the MRI results to discover not alone did she have a stroke, she had several mini strokes. A couple of days later, she was discharged again from the hospital. She was taken in again, and when I was with her, I looked over and she didn't look very well, and she just seemed to pass out. I discovered she was having another episode. When she has this episode, she can't talk. She's lost the power of her fist on her left-hand side. She's lost the power of her arm and her leg. She turns to the left. She can't see. She can't talk when she's in this episode, and you just have to sit with her till she comes round. If she doesn't come round after a certain period of time, you have to phone an ambulance. And the last time, the one she had with me was really bad. She was taken into resus. They done more tests. They discharged her again, and she's just left in limbo. She's home now, and she's got 3 small children, and the 2 boys, one of them only 13, has to learn to administrate the medication, which takes an episode, and if she doesn't come out of it, to phone an ambulance. And she's not getting any better. All day, she had an episode on Friday, and all day Saturday, she couldn't even sit up to drink a cup of tea. It's just horrific. She can't be left on her own. She can't have a shower if there's no one there. It's a horrendous condition to be left with. And at the minute, she said to me yesterday, Mum, I'm not getting any better and I can't see any way out. And it's just shocking.
Yeah, and this, of course, is going to weigh incredibly heavily on you as mum as well. Hemiplegic migraine, she has an official diagnosis of that. Have they given her any preventative medicine? Because there is some available, if my memory serves me correctly from speaking about this before.
Well, she is on stroke medication and she gets an injection once a month to deal with the pain. But unfortunately, she doesn't live in this country.
Oh, okay.
And when I was up at Letterkenny about 2 weeks ago, I happened to mention it to one of the staff. And they said that this past while they have seen 3 patients come in their 30s with the same problem, and they don't know what's causing it.
Mm-hmm. And it is, she has strokes, and then over a period of time, she does somewhat recover from them.
the numbness in her face and the pins and needles down her arm and the blindness on the left eye doesn't go away.
Mm-hmm.
When it gets worse, it goes down her leg, and you're just helpless. There's nothing you can do. 50% of her arteries on the left-hand side of her body are blocked, and 50% of the arteries on her brain are blocked. They don't know what's causing it. So I just wonder, is there anybody out there who has an answer to the long term of this?
Mm-hmm.
We just seem to be picking at straws at the minute.
And I presume they've got her on blood thinners and things like that?
No, she's not on blood thinners.
Okay.
Didn't put her on them, no.
And it's kind of, she's feeling a bit hopeless now, and I'm sure you're feeling that too. She's a young woman. She's only in her early 40s. You say she's got young children at home, and
yes.
She's being sent home really to say that, yeah, you're going to keep having these, but if the symptoms last a certain amount of time, get yourself into hospital, call an ambulance, and then, as you say, the last time she had to be taken to the resuscitation room. So it's really... It must feel like a ticking time bomb for all of you until such time as you get better answers or some pathway to see her improving.
Yes, well, they phoned her yesterday. They asked her to come in. They think there's a possibility she has a hole in the heart. So they're going to do tests tomorrow to see if that's what's causing it. You're just picking at straws. You know, it's just horrendous to watch because she thought she was getting better, and then she had a seizure on Friday, and she had a really bad one on Saturday. She just can't seem to function because there's things she wants to say to you, but she's not able to tell you what she's thinking because of her condition, which is very distressful for the whole of us. It's very hard on her husband, who hasn't left her. But I looked after her for a month. And unfortunately now he has to go back to work, and I will have to go back and stay with her till this problem is resolved one way or the other, if ever.
Yeah, and it's just this is also, I mean, obviously your primary worry is for your daughter and for her children and all, but this is a big pressure on you too, Sinead, something that you're having to deal with now, you know, when you perhaps want to be relaxing a little bit more.
Well, you see, I normally would text her in the morning. If she doesn't reply, I know she's having a bad day.
Right.
And then I leave her for a while, and then she'll text me back and she'll say, sorry, Mum, not well. Just don't want to talk today. So you're helpless.
Yeah,
I mean, it's terrible. You have to learn a 13-year-old child to administer medication to their mother who's having an episode, and sit with her and hold her hand and not let her sleep. To help comes, it's awful. It's just undescribable, and it's very traumatizing for the children.
Yeah. So if anyone out there has any knowledge or understanding of hemiplegic migraine, you've heard the story there of Sinead's daughter, and it is completely debilitating at this point. Requires 24-hour care or monitoring, and you've heard of the responsibility now on the 13-year-old, and the other half has to go back to work, and that means our listener here, Sinead, has to go. She's in a different country, you say, Sinead. She's not living in Donegal, so you have to uproot yourself. Okay. And
I'll have to go back now, so I don't mind doing that. But
no, I know. But it's still a very, very difficult situation, and I think you just want a pathway or some understanding. And listen, we'll also get in contact with a medical professional as well to talk to them about it. But it was just, Sinead, wanted to get you on today just in case there's anyone out there can offer you some pathway or some hope or light or whatever it might be, because it's very difficult. And pass on our good wishes and leave it with us, and we'll see what comes from it.
All right. Thank you, Craig, for highlighting.
No.
Thank you.
It's a tough situation for you. It's clear for you and your family. I'm really sorry for what you're going through. Any assistance? 086 60 25,000.
The 9 till noon show in association with Fit20 Letterkenny. Get fitter and stronger in just 20 minutes. Train once a week with a personal trainer in a climate-controlled gym. Increase strength at any age. Visit fit20.ie to book your free session.
To help with the cost of heating your home during the winter months, the fuel allowance scheme will be paid from the week beginning September 25th. This allowance is paid at a rate of €33 a week for 28 weeks. To find out more and check your eligibility, visit gov.ie/fuel allowance. The quickest and easiest way to apply is online at mywelfare.ie. One payment per household. A Government of Ireland initiative. Brought to you by the Department of Social Protection.
The new Smokes and Grills restaurant is now open in Letterkenny, and to celebrate, all pasta dishes and all steak burgers with fries are just $9.95. Yes, $9.95 for your choice of pasta dish or steak burger from the packed menu. With everything cooked to order and great service every Wednesday to Sunday from 12 to 8, that's Smokes and Grills, now open at Riverside Retail Park, Letterkenny. Call 911-3333 or see Smokes and Grills on Facebook.
Transform your home with a visit to McGinley's Furniture, Letterkenny, located at the Portlink Business Park just off the Port Road. You'll find a huge selection of top-quality suites, beds and mattresses, also slide robes and custom-made dining and occasional furniture, with prices to suit every budget. See the great choice for yourself at our showroom, McGinley's Furniture, Portlink Business Park, Port Road, Letterkenny. Click mcginleysfurniture.com.
Okay, just to get through some other correspondence that has been coming in to us. A caller says, hi Greg, I wonder if you can help. I'm currently waiting on x-rays, currently on week 7, waiting for an appointment. Rang the unit and was told the waiting list was 10 to 12 weeks. This is not acceptable in this day and age. I heard the radiographer retired and no replacement since July. Hopefully you can help. Well, unfortunately, all we could do is make inquiries, and this is the response which we received. The HSE is unable to comment on individual circumstances surrounding particular cases in order to protect patient-client confidentiality, and we understand that. But from yesterday, Monday the 4th, the X-ray service in Carndonagh Community Hospital will be running 5 days a week. Previous to the service starting, patients would travel to Letterkenny University Hospital to avail of an X-ray. The service has been seen a large increase in GP referrals since the COVID-19 pandemic. All referrals are prioritised according to the clinical information supplied by the referring GP. Where a GP has stated a recent injury or trauma, these referrals are fast-tracked, as are all chest referrals. While urgent referrals continue to be seen within 2 to 7 days, the routine waiting list has increased. Increasing the service from 3 to 5 days a week will reduce the routine waiting times and still accommodate all urgent referrals. A senior radiographer position has also been advertised as of August 24th. The closing date is September 12th, and interviews will take place shortly afterwards. So there you have it. That's the situation. Hopefully it may improve, but obviously there are people that are being seen as more urgent than you, and that's why you're being pushed back to the... well, you're not seemingly moving up the queue, it might feel. Greg, we need more GPs in the communities, more doctors and nurses in our hospitals, and more guards on our street to deal with the increasing population. We do not need more TDs and spending more money on politicians, says a caller. My boyfriend and I got a site from his father and are going to build on it. This morning, we got a prize to build a 3-bedroomed ensuite house, bathroom, kitchen and hall. That's just the building, never mind everything else. There is no way we could get a mortgage to pay this type of money. So how much do you think their quote was for a 3-bedroomed ensuite bathroom, kitchen and hall? €350,000. How a family is doing it, we have to rethink our plans, which were pretty basic in the beginning, they say. So they have the site. Hopefully they have the planning. But it's €350,000 to build what is a relatively modest house, and presumably that's not going to include everything. And I don't see those prices going in the downward direction either. A caller says most schools have canteens now. We got notified yesterday that the school will be operating the canteen payment system via a card, which can be topped up on a regular basis so children cannot pay with cash. Surely this is just encouraging a cashless society. Is it fair? How has this system being allowed to be introduced with no consultation with parents on it? As a parent, do I have any rights to insist that my child has a right to use the canteen with cash? It's an interesting question. And I'll tell you too, there are times where the money's not there to top up a card. You know what I mean? If people are struggling a little bit, and you can always, hopefully always get a few euro cash together for lunch. But there is a reality that sometimes, for whatever reasons, you can't transfer from a card or your bank account to one of these cards in the canteens. It was introduced during COVID in schools that I'd be familiar with, and it's back again now. What do you think out there? 08660 25,000. Another listener says, I'm a tenant in a house with a back boiler and an oil-fired boiler. Only use the back boiler because the oil is so expensive. Estate agent came out to do a check and the boiler wouldn't come on and is now being told that she's responsible for the boiler not working since she never turned it on. Is this the case? How can she have it broken? How can she have it broken if she's never used it? Right, it is a... I didn't last year, I think it was last year or perhaps the year before, didn't use the oil burner at all, fired it up and it didn't fire up. Ended up having to change it. But changing it was the best thing I ever did because the new burner is so much more efficient than the old one that had been in there for a couple of decades. But anyway, be that as it may, who is responsible to fix this boiler? The listener, the tenant in the house, is being told that it's her fault because she didn't use it. But surely it's the person who owns the property is responsible for that, is it? 08660 25,000. Let us know what you think. All right, more reaction now to the Electoral Commission's review of Donegal. They said they couldn't justify returning it to a 2-3-seater setup, and instead it's going to retain 5, and there's a line south of Pettigo, Lahey, Ballantrae to the sea, effectively, that's still with Sligo and Leitrim. Mary T. Sweeney is going to be standing in the next general election for Aintu here in Donegal. What's your reaction to the decision we learned of last week, Mary T.?
Well, I think it's disgraceful that there's not more hurrah about it from all the politicians of Donegal. Dublin-centric is again further emphasised. It's another disenfranchised marginalisation of the west coast of Ireland, never mind just Donegal. And to add insult to injury, to include the seats and the representation for Dublin. It's just a Dublin autocracy. They're in control. It's a form of gerrymandering, really, I believe.
How does
this is why the rural voice has been... This is why the rural voice has been smothered. And I just posted Patrick Murphy, the CEO of the Fishermen in Cork, had a very moving video up of another 2 boats in Castletown Bear being cut up because of the fishing quota being handed away. Like, where are our politicians to stand up for Donegal and for the West Coast? It shouldn't be represent Dublin and rural Ireland. It should be represent rural Ireland and Dublin. And it's not happening.
So, Mary T., are you saying that if there were extra TDs to go around, then one should have come to Donegal for more representation of the issues facing Donegal? Is that your main gripe with it, or...?
I have queries and concerns about the overall electoral composition, the way it's made up at the moment. But yes, if that were to be the case, but there is definitely a total review needed of the whole procedure and placement and representation that we have at this time. And we need to look at why that Dublin is in control of the rural economies. That we have people elected as a minister. Pascal Donoghue is elected as a minister, had control of finance and public expenditure, and he was voted with less votes than Pat the Cope Gallagher or John O'Donnell, who didn't even get elected in Donegal. It's really difficult to understand, but without looking at the facts and figures on it. But the simplicity of it is, Pascal Donoghue is voted in on 4,738 votes. The constituencies in Dublin are much, much smaller for their polls, their voting poll, their electorate area. We have like 120,000 people in the Donegal constituency here. The electorate's 125,000 and the turnout for the valid polls was 77,000. And when you compare ministers actually making financial decisions elected on a jury of 4,738 votes, where their quotas are much less, their electorate is much smaller.
Mm-hmm. And finally,
that's an unfair playing field.
Finally, Mary T.
That's like putting a senior hurling player in the pitch with the juniors, the under 15s, under 16s.
Yeah, it favours the bigger parties too, presumably. In Donegal,
totally favours the bigger. That's why I'm saying this is a Dublin autocracy. It's well designed. Again, the usual to control the governance, to control the view, and to control the people. They have used their marketing skills and their how much was spent, how many houses, how many Micah homes in Donegal could have been rebuilt by what has been spent to circumnavigate to get to the outcome that they wanted here.
Okay, Mary T.
This is the big parties doing this.
Okay.
And I'm very, very angry about it.
Yeah, and it's something we'll return to. Thank you very much indeed. That's Mary T. Sweeney, who is going to contest the next general election as an Ain't To rep. Okay, it is the 9 till noon show. That's hour one of this Tuesday over, pretty much. We'll be back with Community Garda information after the news and obituary notices.
The 9 till noon show in association with Fit20 Letterkenny. Get fitter and stronger in just 20 minutes. Train once a week with a personal trainer in a climate-controlled gym. Increase strength at any age. Visit fit20.ie to book your free session.
At ESB Networks, we're connecting Ireland to a clean electric future. And as part of the National Smart Metering Programme, we're now installing smart electricity meters in your area. Your new smart meter will reduce the need for estimated bills, help you to manage your electricity usage more efficiently, and enable you to access smart electricity products and services. We'll contact you before your meter is installed. Find out more at esbnetworks.ie/smartmeter.
The Loganair Big Take-Off Sale is now on. Fly from City of Derry Airport to London Heathrow and more. Save up to 15% off over 2 million seats during our biggest ever sale. Or get a whopping 20% off if you're a Clan Loganair member.
Fly with me.
Hurry, book by the 12th of September. Travel from the 2nd of October. Subject to availability, exclusions apply. Promo code required. See loganair.co.uk. Loganair, for all the times.
Summer may be over, but the need for storage is just beginning. Dealside Garden Furniture brings you the perfect solution with full range of sizes in garden sheds, outdoor canopies and much more. Safely store your barbecue, patio furniture and outdoor toys. Dealside Garden Furniture Lifford, made to measure and one-off designs are our speciality. Find us on social media.
For all your training needs, Northwest Forestry Services Training Department Ballybuffet offer a wide range of courses from training bodies such as NPTC City and Guilds, QQI, LADRA and ABA International. Courses include all land-based services such as chainsaw, tree climbing and rescue, pesticides, working in heights and ATV training. Other courses offered include first aid responder, manual handling and building safety, to name but a few. For a full list of training courses and availability, contact Northwest Forestry Services Ballybuffet on 074 9132033.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock. Donal Kavanagh at the news desk. It's understood a centre for Ukrainian refugees is to be opened in South Donegal. The former Ringford Inn building has been offered for use. A planning application for renovations is now with Donegal County Council. With more, here's Michaela Clark.
The Department of Children, Equality, Disability, Integration and Youth has confirmed that the former Ringford Inn property in Brooklis has been offered to the department for the accommodation of beneficiaries of temporary protection from Ukraine. A spokesperson says it has been passed on to the Department of Housing as the accommodation is in need of refurbishment. No further details as to when the centre will be open or how many people will be housed there is currently available. A planning application is with Donegal County Council for a 16 ensuite bedroom extension of the building, along with the extension of the hotel entrance lobby, dining room entrance lobby and kitchen stores, as well as the development of a detached general store building. Sleeve League Hotel Limited has also applied to upgrade the access road, install boundary fencing, leisure decks, access paths, landscape gardens and plantation, signage and external lighting.
It's emerged that more than 5% of adults are actively living with symptoms of long COVID in Ireland. According to data contained in a recent survey commissioned by independent TD Dennis Naughton, 76% of those with symptoms report their ability to perform daily activities has been reduced. A similar study commissioned in November found 6% of adults were reporting symptoms. W. Naughton says close to 200,000 people are affected by the condition. He says people in the West and Northwest are being denied the care and expertise that they need.
The HSE back in 2021 gave a commitment to establish 8 regional centres with cardiologists, respiratory consultants, occupational therapists, physiotherapists and so forth, including establishing one in Letterkenny. And that is not functional today, and that leaves people in the northwest of the country at an extreme disadvantage in terms of getting access to the proper care and treatment that they need.
The HSE says an X-ray service is now running at Carndonagh Community Hospital on a 5-day-a-week basis rather than the 3 days on which it had previously been operating. The HSE says the service has seen a large increase in GP referrals since the COVID pandemic, and they're being prioritised according to the situation. Urgent referrals continue to be seen within 2 to 7 days, but the routine waiting list has increased, and the HSE says moving from a 3 to a 5-day service will bring those waiting times down. Meanwhile, they say a senior radiographer position has been advertised with a closing date of this day week. Interviews should take place shortly afterwards. Material deprivation is on the up, and income equality has decreased for the first time since 2017. A new study from the Economic Social Research Institute found after-tax disposable income fell in 2021 for the poorest fifth of the workforce. It stagnated for those earning less than $46,000 a year. It's also recommended pay rises of 14% would be needed by the end of the year to keep salaries in line with inflation. Assistant Professor of Economics at Trinity, Dr. Barra Rowntree, has been looking at the definition of material deprivation.
That's being unable to afford two of a list of 10 essentials. So that went up from about 13% to almost 17%. That kind of goes against what we've seen for the past almost decade, where we've seen very strong growth in household incomes, which matters more to people probably than the GDP or GNI figures that we hear often reported.
More Gardaí are to be deployed to road policing units in a bid to tackle the increased number of deaths on Irish roads. The pledge has come from Justice Minister Helen McEntee as the latest National Slowdown Day campaign came to an end this morning. By 9 last night, 310 drivers had been caught speeding, one of them doing 161 kilometres an hour in a 100 km zone in County Louth. A number of detections were also made in Donegal. And a quarter of primary-aged children and 40% of secondary-aged pupils in Ireland have experienced cyberbullying. The latest report from CyberSafe Kids shows girls are more likely than boys to be victimised online, with the posting of pictures without permission, creation of fake social media profiles, and exclusion from chat groups the most commonly experienced form of online abuse. 93% of 8 to 12-year-olds have access to a smart device. 31% said they're allowed to go online whenever they like. Well, the CEO of CyberSafe Kids, Alex Cooney, says children must be encouraged to speak out if they're attacked online.
This is really concerning, especially as it relates to more serious and more persistent cases. We'd really urge parents, teachers to encourage children to come forward, to be upstanders for other children, so that if they see something that's not right, that they do report it to a trusted adult, so that we can really try and reduce these numbers of children who are experiencing harm online.
Weather forecast Met tell us it'll be dry today with long spells of hazy sunshine. Top temperatures 22 to 26 degrees Celsius in moderate easterly breezes. And that's Highland Radio News. We're back with news headlines again at 11. Until then, from the news team, have a very good morning.
The obituary notices this Tuesday morning, September 5th. The death has taken place of Patrick McLaughlin, 26 Fernhill, Letterkenny and Skelpie Castle Finn. His remains are reposing at his mother-in-law Tulip McCrory's residence, Skelpie Castle Finn. Funeral from there tomorrow morning at 11:30. Going to St Columba's Church, Doneloop for 12 noon Requiem Mass, with burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Family flowers only. Donations, if desired, to St Vincent de Paul, Castle Finn, care of Kennedy's Funeral Directors, Castle Finn. Family time, please, from 11 p.m. and on the morning of the funeral. The death has taken place of Liam Duffy, 14 Morn Avenue, Strabane, reposing at his home. Funeral leaving his home tomorrow morning at 9:25 a.m. for Requiem Mass in St Mary's Church, Melmount at 10 a.m. Interment afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Family time, please, from 11 p.m. tonight. The Requiem Mass can be viewed live via the parish webcam. The death has taken place of Hughie Galbraith, Port Hall, Lifford. His remains are reposing at the home of his sister, Maureen Colhoun, 314 Connyborough Road, Lifford. Funeral service at his sister's home this afternoon at 2 p.m, followed by burial in the family plot in Ballylennon Presbyterian Churchyard. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu, if desired, to Ballylennon Presbyterian Church, care of any family member or Terence McClintock, Funeral Director. The death has taken place of Sarah Teresa Anthony, Glebe Ballyara Melton, Ní Friel Doamore Fanad. Remains reposing at her home in Balliar. Removal from there this evening at 6:30pm. Going to St Mary's Church Fanavolti, arriving at 7:30pm to repose overnight. Funeral mass tomorrow morning at 10am. Burial afterwards in Fanavolti Cemetery. House private to family and friends. Funeral mass can be viewed on Patrick Sweeney, funeral director's Facebook page. The death has occurred of Kathleen McNicholas, née Gallagher, 2 Ashley Park, Ramelton Road, Letterkenny. Funeral from her home today, going to the Church of the Irish Martyrs, Ballyrain, Letterkenny, for 1pm Requiem Mass, which can be viewed live on YouTube. Followed by burial in the family plot in Cornwall Cemetery. Family time, please, before the funeral. Family flowers only, please. Donations if wished to the Donegal Hospice, care of Pascal Blake, funeral director. The death has taken place of David Campbell Rankin Tour Muff. Funeral service in Greenbank Presbyterian Church this afternoon at 1:30. Interment afterwards in the adjoining burying ground. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu of flowers if wished to Greenbank Presbyterian Church, care of Mrs Sylvia McCon, Windy Hill. For more details, including any family health guidelines for wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
If you want to grow up to be a champion, you have to eat like a champion. And the Aldi Super 6 fresh fruit and veg offers are a super choice with up to 62% off. Gala apples were $1.59 and mini bananas were $1.79, now both 99¢. Baby potatoes were $1.09 and mushrooms were $1.15, now both 79¢. Carrot and parsnip tray was $1.29 and mini easy peelers were 99¢, now both 49¢. Aldi, official fresh food partner of the Irish rugby team. Come on, Ireland, we're rooting for you.
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
You're very welcome back to the second hour of today's programme as we approach 10 minutes past 10. I hope you're all feeling very well this morning. And thanks so much for being with us today. Right, lots of people coming in with comments and what have you. Not surprising, I suppose, as school returns, that there's a few wee issues popping up there. A caller says, "Hi, Greg, I know this comes up on your show, but why do some schools still insist on girls not being allowed to take off the jumper in this heat? It's totally wrong and unfair. I had 2 girls come home yesterday totally drained and sweating." And what is the logic behind that? I do understand that the reasons as to why in normal circumstances, but when it's so warm, why would people be forced to continue wearing really heavy winter sweaters? If that's an issue for you or you have a comment on that, you know the numbers. Another caller says, "I don't agree with the cashless card system that they're introducing in the schools. I was in touch with the catering company and was advised that the banks have put a huge pressure on them, but was also advised that the canteen workers will still accept cash and put it into the child's card. I feel that this is not fair and kids should be allowed to use cash and not cards. When the kids have cash, they know what they have and know what they have to spend. Cash should be used," says this listener. I wonder what the young ones think of it, though. I mean, is this what we want? Or do the young ones go, I'd prefer to use cash? I say that. Aaron's still in school. He loves cash, and I don't mean like we all love cash, don't get me wrong, but he always tries to have a bit of cash with him. Yes, that's the price for building now. Tell that couple to go down the route of a wooden frame house. It will cost them 50 or 60 grand. That's what my friend is doing. We have a young couple, I believe they were young anyway, judging by how the text was phrased. They got a quote for a property to be built on land that they were given, or it's from the father. Whether they paid for it or not, I don't know. But €350,000 for a relatively modest 3-bedroomed house. But this caller say, have a look at wooden frame. And you know what? There's a strong argument for many reasons to look at wooden frames, isn't there? That lady was on talking about her daughter, bless her. I hope she recovers soon, but that's the 3rd person I've heard of who's in a similar circumstances in recent months. Where did we stand before the COVID injection? Scary to think. It's hard to know. I mean, because the thing as well, what people say the COVID jabs can do to some people, COVID can do to some people as well, how it affects your blood. I mean, we can have that debate. I'm not sure at this point where we'd go with it, but that being said, I do know some people that received advice who were in similar circumstances that received advice to avoid any further COVID injections. So there's different views out there on that. Greg, can you tell that couple that got the big price for their house to get a local man to build the house and supply the materials themselves? Most local builders would advise them what to get. Read the boiler. I think it's 100% the tenant's responsibility. Okay, but now keep in mind that he didn't. They haven't used it. So, I mean, is it in the contract that use it or lose it? It won't work? I don't know. It's a tough one. Ask this lady had her daughter the COVID injection. Another caller says the psychiatric day centre in Carn SUV, that's the old convent, hasn't reopened after COVID. I think that this is a disgrace. It was where its clients could meet up, partake in activities and be under the eye of mental health professionals. Most of all, it alleviated loneliness and isolation for these people. Please look into this. Another here. Hi, our national school, that is a DESH school, has requested €25 for photocopying and art materials. The principal sent out a gentle reminder, no mention of it being optional. Child's name must be written on the envelope, so they are obviously keeping a record. Right, okay. As I say, DESH schools particularly are in areas where there is more deprivation, I think the word is. So a €25 bill for photocopying and art materials, I don't know. Right, okay. Let us see. I want another couple of comments here just before we go to the break. Caller says, I'm quite tech savvy, but nearly caught out on a WhatsApp scam pretending to be my son who changed phone numbers and providers. Then needed money. Sent message on Facebook to son, asked for his date of birth and location of birth, complained to WhatsApp and blocked scammer. Gardaí advised to call local station, who could probably not have time or a clue to catch scammers. Why don't Gardaí have a central anti-cyber scam and maybe include cyberbullying, etc. section aligned with the phone and social media providers is beyond me. Another closure of day hospital by COVID stealth. Other people, especially living alone, need this service. Totally agree with Tony. Same problem in St. Joseph's, Stranraer. This is shortening people's lives and reducing their quality of life and health. And another one here on speed vans. Get rid of the speed vans. It's only a sideline for Garda. Well, there's no advantage in it for Gardaí as such. These are an independent company that are employed. Not your rank and file Gardaí. There's no benefit for them at all. They certainly don't see any of the money. That's why so many of them are leaving. That unfortunately is the story all over Donegal. Government are living in another world than the people of every day. But there's going to come a point here when all of this stuff adds up that we are enduring. It's a beautiful place. And on a day like today, where else would you be? And there's so much positive to talk about in Donegal, but that doesn't mean at times we don't have to highlight where things are going wrong, and especially when it seems to affect particular groups of people, and that's where we're at right now. We have to also be able to talk about that and shine a spotlight on that. But there's going to come a point where people are going to go, right, enough is enough. What's going on here? Okay, let's take a break. Stay tuned. Community Garda information coming up just around the corner.
It's time for NCBI Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Tuesday, the 5th of September. You're playing on the brown sheet. The reference number is S17. It's game number 36. The numbers are 41, 14, 81, 24, 35, 2, 80, 60, 26, and finally 90. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your NCBI bingo information at highlandradio.com.
It's the Right Price Tiles and Wood Flooring 70% off sale. Get up to 70% off on all your purchases. Up to 70% off all tiles, all wood flooring, all bathware. Everything's reduced in store. The 70% off sale at Right Price Tiles and Wood Flooring. Stores nationwide. Sale extended until Sunday.
Take a step towards a new career at the Zeus recruitment event in Letterkenny this Saturday. Available positions include maintenance, electrical and machine shop technicians, process engineers, production operators and quality inspectors. Meet hiring managers and speak directly to the company to find out what's on offer. All at the Zeus recruitment event this Saturday the 16th from 10 to 4 in the Clanry Hotel, Letterkenny.
The 9 till noon show in association with Fit20 Letterkenny. Get fitter and stronger in just 20 minutes. Train once a week with a personal trainer in a climate-controlled gym. Increase strength at any age. Visit fit20.ie to book your free session.
The Community Garda information slot is brought to you by Sheridan Security Systems, protecting what you value most. Call today and get your zero-wire alarm system from €299. Sheridan Security, 91-26025.
Okay, 18 minutes past 10 on this Tuesday, the 5th of September 2023, and we're joined in studio by Garda Claire Rafferty, attached to the Milford Garda station. Thank you, Claire, for joining us this morning. It's really appreciated.
Morning, Greg.
Okay, quite a bit to get through, so we'll get straight into it. And seeking the public's assistance in relation to a fatal road traffic collision at Bridgend.
Yeah, unfortunately now we've to start off with a sad one, but Gardaí in Buncran are investigating a fatal road traffic collision that occurred at Carraway Bridge End on Tuesday last, the 29th of August 2023. The single vehicle collision involving a car occurred between 8:30am and 9am, and sadly the male driver of the car was pronounced deceased at the scene. So Gardaí are appealing to anyone who may have witnessed this collision to contact them. Any road users who may have camera footage, including dash cam or anything at all, or anyone who is travelling in the Bridgend to Clay area between 8am and 9:30am last Tuesday, we're asking you to make this footage available to us. Anyone with any information is asked to contact Buncrana Garda Station on 074 93 20540, and the Garda Confidential line is there as well on 1800 666 111, or indeed any Garda station can be contacted at all.
Okay, and let the Gardaí judge if the information is relevant. Get in contact, and because there's an extensive investigation is carried out after such a tragedy. Moving to Letterkenny now, and investigations ongoing into an assault.
Yeah, so there was an assault at Lower Main Street, Letterkenny on Sunday the 27th of August, and this was at approximately 3:05am. So the male, the injured party in question, received a punch to the face, and he ended up having facial injuries that required treatment in hospital. So we appeal to anyone that may have witnessed this incident to contact the Gardaí in Letterkenny on 074 916 7100.
And also an assault a little later, the 2nd of September, also in Letterkenny.
Yeah, so another one. This one happened at Gorton Grania on Saturday the 2nd. So it was Saturday evening at 8:30pm. A male living in the area was assaulted by another male. He received injuries to his eye. So we ask anyone with any information. This was evening time. There would have been people around, I'm sure. So if you've seen anything or know anything in relation to this assault, to contact Gardaí in Letterkenny, please.
Okay, our next focus is on burglaries, starting at Hazelbrook Crescent or Hazelwood Crescent.
Yeah, it is, yeah. Gardaí in Letterkenny are appealing for this one, again, to a burglary incident that occurred on Saturday the 2nd of September between 1am and 1:30am, so essentially Friday night into Saturday. A house was entered via an unlocked door, and a PlayStation 5 was stolen from the property. So if anyone has any relevant information to offer, we ask them to contact Letterkenny on 074 916 7100.
And again, this is not to attribute any blame, and we all make mistakes and what have you, but we do have to remind ourselves, don't we, just to make sure that we lock up and keep our valuables secure as much as possible.
Yeah, take that extra time when you're leaving the house. Just double check and make sure all doors are locked and all windows are closed, and if possible locked as well, because we don't want to make things easy for people. This is someone who's seen an opportunity, checked the door, it was open, and made away with the PlayStation.
And often we think we nip out, but we can get caught up doing other things as well then.
It doesn't take them long.
Yeah, really quickly. Okay, now a second burglary, this time at Fair Green Park.
Yeah, so we've another PlayStation stolen here. So this one was at Fair Green Park on Friday the 1st of September between 8:30am and 3:30pm. So the owner arrived home and he reported that entry was gained to the property and a number of items taken, this time including a PlayStation 4. So we asked if anyone seen anyone acting suspicious and around the area during those times to please contact Letterkenny Gardaí. Or also, if anyone has offered you an item as such for sale, it would be very important for us to check that out. It may be genuine, but let us work at that and figure that out.
Yeah, for sure. All right, 2 instances now of criminal damage. The first in Lifford.
Yeah, so this was by fire. A Toyota Hiace van was burnt out on Portmuir, Lifford at approximately 11:30pm on Saturday night, the 2nd of September. So the owner of the vehicle just returned home to find that the van had been burnt out. So we appeal to anyone who may have any relevant information in relation to this incident to make contact with Gardaí in Letterkenny again on 074 916 7100.
And this time criminal damage in Ballybofey.
Yeah, this one is at Meanglass Road, Ballybofey, between 5:30am and 6am on Sunday morning, the 3rd of September. A window on a car was broken. So if anyone was in that area and has any information to offer us, we'd ask you to please contact Letterkenny Gardaí.
Yep, and with all of these cases, and the reason it's mentioned, more and more people have doorbell cameras, external cameras, dash cam footage. This could all be really critical in bringing a lot of these resolution to a lot of these cases as well. It's not mentioned for the crack. It's a really important tool now.
If you have anything at all, even if you think it mightn't have caught anything, let us worry about it. We'll have a look into it because we appreciate any information going at all.
Now, hedge cutting.
Yeah, so it's that time of year again. The season's in full swing, and we would like to remind all road users to be mindful of this when they're travelling, particularly on country roads. So the hedges can be cut between the 1st of September and the 1st of March. So there will be a visible increase in this type of large machinery in operation along roadsides over the coming weeks. So just bear it in mind and please drive with due care and remain alert at all times.
A little bit of patience goes a long way too.
Well,
you do see
yeah, it's needed.
the horns go in, the lights are being flashed, and what advantage?
These hedges are being cut to increase visibility for road users as well, so they are doing us a favour too, so we need to bear that in mind.
Right, now we had our latest National Slowdown Day yesterday.
Yeah, so from 7am yesterday till 7am this morning, Gardaí were out across the country and across the Donegal division conducting speed checks. So we just said we'd mention some notable speeds detected in Donegal, one of which was in a 60 kilometre zone. A driver was caught doing 90 kilometres in Bundoran, and then somebody was doing 114 kilometres per hour in an 80 kilometre zone in Glentoher. And then a large one here, 160 kilometres per hour in a 100 kilometre zone in the Letterkenny area. So that driver in particular was arrested and he has been charged and will appear in court. So we continue to appeal to drivers to comply with the speed limit in order to reduce the number of speed-related injuries and collisions, save lives, reduce injuries on the road. We've seen the stats of late of how many people have been injured on the roads, and it's alarming. So if anyone can do anything to reduce it, we'd ask you, please slow down.
Yeah, and the headline figure obviously is the amount of fatalities. Awful tragedy visited on so many communities, but then the families of the deceased and the impact it has on them, and then the multiple of people with often life-changing injuries that you don't necessarily hear about as well. It's not just that awful number of people that sadly pass away. It ripples far beyond that, doesn't it? And also, too, there's some interesting videos on the likes of TikTok or YouTube, right, that shows how cars react at different speeds. And the difference between 60 and 114, or 60 and 90, or 80 and 100, you know what I mean? It's shocking,
there's
the impact.
Lots of different factors. The speed, as you say, those videos, there's other ones as well, with the tyre thread on your car, the difference that can make as well. And then road factors, if the road's wet, you have to bear that in mind too. You know, all these things brought in together makes for dangerous outcomes, you know.
Okay, Claire, thank you so much for all of your time and getting this together as well. We really do appreciate it. That's Garda Claire Rafferty from the Milford Garda Station. That was Community Garda information for this Tuesday, the 5th of September. It will be available for you to watch back later on ours and on Garda Síochána's Facebook page, and it's back live for you after 10 next Tuesday.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
The 9 till noon show in association with Fit20 Letterkenny. Get fitter and stronger in just 20 minutes. Train once a week with a personal trainer in a climate-controlled gym. Increase strength at any age. Visit fit20.ie to book your free session.
Head to Dunnes Stores for uniforms that can keep up with your little one's busy schedules. Pick up a 3-pack of playproof polos from just €5 and sweatshirts from just €3.75. Then head to our food hall to pack their pencil case for less, with half price on selected supplies from Bic and Pilot and essentials from Milan from just €2. Then save again with your Shop and Save grocery vouchers. Back to school at Dunnes Stores. Shop in-store and online now. Terms and conditions apply. Voucher can be used on next grocery shop of €50 or more, or next in-store grocery shop of €25 or more.
At Allstate, we provide flexible working options that make work for you. You can choose condensed working or a flexible start or finish time. Choose to work from home or the office whenever you want. Don't miss out on the moments that matter to you. Make work for you. Search Allstate NI Careers today.
If the medical experts get it wrong, everything changes. From misdiagnosis or delayed diagnosis to surgical injury or even poor treatment, all have physical, emotional and financial consequences. We're here to help. So if your treatment didn't go according to plan, speak to our experienced medical negligence team at McElhenney and Associates. Find us online or call 074 917 5989. McElhenney and Associates Solicitors, Stranorlar. In contentious business, a solicitor may not calculate fees or other charges as a percentage or proportion of any award or settlement.
Have you heard about Charlie's chips? They're made from potatoes that are carefully selected, then peeled, cut, and like everything else at Charlie's in Letterkenny, cooked to order. That's why they taste so good. From 12 right through to 8 in the evening, Charlie's at Pierce Road, Letterkenny offer an extensive menu that includes a great selection of gluten-free options, all available to sit in or take away. The next time the hunger hits, pull into Charlie's.
Okay, you're very welcome back to the 9 till noon show. We're joined on it now by Patrick. Patrick, how are you getting on?
Good morning, Greg. How are you? And it's a lovely, fine morning.
Isn't it just beautiful, Patrick? Come here. What's your views on what we're seeing on our roads, the awful
well, I've been listening to it for the last 2 days, and I love the show. And to be honest, my opinion is, first of all, yesterday on the radio, every time the news was on, they were advertising it was Slow Down Day.
Yeah.
So, first of all, for me, the people that were caught speeding weren't tuned into Highland Radio because they were slowed down because they got the heads up that it was on. I don't think it's something that should be advertised, first of all, because they would catch more people, because they'd catch more people that are speeding without letting them know that that's an actual day that the guards are out in full force. That's my first comment.
And before you go on to your second, Patrick, I initially would agree with you, because I remember the head of traffic at the time when GoSafe was being brought in. I was like, well, what's the logic here? They're very high visible. Everyone knows where they'll be. There's a list of the locations on the internet. And they said that is the strategy, that that they're located where it's particularly dangerous, and if people slow down, that's what they want. It's not about shooting fish in a barrel. This was the argument put to me. Now I know people have a different view, but they're located where we've seen serious crashes before, and the guards say it doesn't matter why they slow down. If they know it's there in advance, at least they're slowing down in these bad areas.
Well, I'm glad we're on the same wavelength, but I just don't see the logic behind it. I can't see. I think that number would have maybe had maybe in the whole of Ireland, you might have doubled that yesterday if radios weren't like, and 100%, if it wasn't on the internet, it wasn't let people know, and you know what I mean, I just think it'd be the number would be a lot high in terms of the people that they're catching speeding. But it leads on, though, to the poor families with the amount of tragedies that we've had in this country this year has been unreal. And from knowing people that have lost family members to crashes, I think it's also very sad to always have this association to speed and young ones off. They're mad on the road, they're going hard. So I think that the Green Party and the council should be held accountable for some of the road deaths that's happened. And I'll get into a wee bit of depth with the Green Party. The circumstances are not allowed to cut in roads. There are hedges and cleaning ditches alongside the roads. So you've got hedges now that are coming across and meeting almost. It's really bad visibility around corners and such. And then you've got drains that years ago, oh my God, the wee village I used to live in, there were wee old men and they would be there with their bill hooks and their hand hooks, and you could have drunk the water out of the drains. They had the drains immaculate. And on bad country roads, they were so well kept. This has come back like years. And they were part of the council scheme. And I remember it was all hand tools. And the place was immaculate. The place was beautiful. The roads were, do you know what I mean? And all of a sudden now the Green Party is not allowing us to do this. The water's not getting away, so it's lying on the road. And with the amount of rain that we've been getting and the amount of flooding is diabolical. The burns and the streams are choked with branches and overgrown trees. And then we get ones that aren't they're so unusual for this time of year because the trees are so heavy, they're hanging over the burns, they're breaking, they're falling into things. We're not allowed to clean them. So they're blocking up. It all has a knock-on effect.
Yeah, and listen, I've said it before, there are a number of factors in a road traffic collision. There's the driver behaviour, there's the condition of the vehicle, and there's the condition of the roads as well. But let it put me to you like this. The problem is there's never a good time to talk about road safety, unfortunately. It's not to blame or to say why a crash happened, but we can't not talk about what's going on the roads with the incredible loss of life and serious injury. And the guards do really extensive investigations into these instances, Patrick, as you can imagine. And they're obviously concerned of the factor of speeding in the crashes that they're investigating and going onto the scene. So whilst you're correct in what you're saying, yes, we have to make sure the roads are as safe as possible, the guards must have some particular evidence that points to speed being a factor in some of the awful situations that we're seeing.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, there is no doubt about it, there's speed involved. That's a factor. But if you take a corner that a young person's been driving on, right, he knows the road, we'll just say now for argument's sake, and he's driving, we'll say, from Ramelton to Letterkenny. He knows that road like the back of his hand. And he's up and down that road all the time. And yes, he's probably flying because he's used to that road. But if all of a sudden, like there's been situations where there's downpours of water, the water's not getting away, it's on the road. That young fella's coming around that corner, yes, there's speed involved. He's not taking into consideration the rain on the road. But even worse, he's not taking into consideration there's a puddle maybe crossing over into the second lane. And therefore, that's now a new thing for him that he's never came across.
Understood.
He tries to avoid that. You're not going to, you know what I mean? 100% there is speed involved. But if there's conditions on the road, I'll give you another perfect example. Is the back of vehicles, a road I drive on regularly. And the Northern Irish crowd that repaired the road they were in, you always know the difference because of two reasons. One, the surface finish is incredible, and you always know the Northern Irish registration, so you know that a company is taken in to do the job. Then you'll go then to where Glen Bay National Park is, where our council has repaired the road. And the two surfaces are just unbelievably different. It's just like, one is like you'd need a 4x4 to drive on when the council's finished, our council. And the other one, you could have slicks on the roads that beautifully.
I get you. And I think that probably there are factors in terms of, yourself, these roads get changed, resurfaced completely at different 100%. Times, and then there's maintenance.
Exactly.
But listen, I know what you're saying, Patrick. I think though our guys are doing the best with the tools and the equipment.
Without a doubt, I'm not here to.
No, I get you. So again, I mean, I don't disagree with you. I think we do need to definitely have more of a conversation about the surfaces and the conditions of our roads as well. But alongside the conversation about speeding, Patrick, would we agree on that then, that we have to make sure we don't say, well, it's not speeding, it's this, it's not this, it's speeding. Look at it
without a doubt. Education's a big important factor. There's no doubt about it. And I think, to be honest, as part of the driving test, I think it would be phenomenal. I know that's going to sound really harsh, but I think it would be phenomenal for part of your driving test. You know, when you're going to do your, what do you call it, exam, I think they should have a 15-minute at the end of your exam where you have to sit and watch this video, and it has to be a passer. And it should be video evidence, and it should be photographic images of cars and the structure and the situation. But also on that video, have the Gardaí going to the doors and knocking on these families' doors. Because young ones, young ones don't think when they're jumping out of the car and they're going flying. They're not thinking of the consequences of what's left behind. And I think that would be a brilliant thing to have on a video.
It's proven because we have these road safety road shows that take place in Letterkenny every year, and it's clear chatting to the young ones after they've been shown the reality of it that it does stay with them. But Patrick, my concern is that if we were really serious about road safety, it would be part, firstly, of at least transition year. That road safety would form part of the education system if it's not happening already. Also, let's say as it is, the driving test thing is a joke, right? Because say, for instance, you do your test in Donegal Town, you just have to get 20 minutes right. No motorway, no frost, no darkness, no roundabouts, no traffic lights. And then you get through your 18, 20 minutes and that's it. You can jump in your car and pretty much go anywhere. So again, it's not really preparing us. And of course, maybe people might say, well, you got the 12 lessons in advance. Again, though, if you're doing them in certain areas of the county or country, you don't come across any of the problems that we're talking about now. So, I would just love to see road safety intertwined a wee bit more with the education and maybe elements of the whole driving test system we need to look at, because it feels like it's a lot of money, but what are you getting out of it?
I'm going to 100% agree with you, Greg. I think every point you made is so unbelievable. And you never mentioned about Letterkenny having roundabouts for their test, and the majority of them are marked wrongly, which is even funnier. Do you know what I mean?
What's the poll star going to be like? I mean, that is... Yeah. Now, it might be perfect, but my word, that is a strange roundabout to begin with, because you can have effectively 3 or 4 cars trying to go in one lane. Yeah.
One lane,
you're going to have people sitting on that roundabout with red lights. It's going to be very interesting.
I sat my test in the UK in Scotland, and I totally agree with you. It's so unfair to see somebody that grew up in a city having to sit at the city, and somebody in a rural place. It's a different lesson. It's a different, as you say, it's 100%. But come here, but the education sector of it, I think that the age should be first year in secondary school. I'll tell you the reason why I would go that low. You can go up there now, for example, there's an event on this weekend in Letterkenny, the drifting, and you can go out there and there's kids and cars drifting, and I think that's phenomenal. I think that's a great thing because I've got a place to go there and do, and I think it's a fantastic idea because it's getting them off the roads and getting them off, and I love that. But in terms of the education for the speed, it needs to go right down to the very beginning of first year, because that's what age there needs to donuts and stuff.
Patrick, why did we all end up wearing seatbelts? Because the young ones come out of school and said, Dad, Mom, put your seatbelt on, because they were told in school how important seatbelts were. Because it was a very different time. I don't have a great memory of where you didn't really have to wear a seatbelt, but I really think it was the young ones being taught in national school and secondary school that told Mum and Dad to put the seatbelts on. So I agree with you, maybe even earlier. But I'm saying let's start something. Let's try something, because and also we need to speak to young people, Patrick. And you and me and you seem to be a similar mind, whereby you understand, that it's those different things are controlled and safe, and people can have fun in a safe environment. But we talk about young people. We talk about them, but we don't talk to them enough to say, well, what would you like to see done? What should be done? What might change your mind or your peers' minds? And we do it with older people as well for some reason. We talk at them and about them, but not to them.
Well, I had this conversation the other day with 3 young guys in the car. I had 3 boys about 16, 17, and they were talking about the drifting and so on and stuff like this. And I was saying stuff exactly like that to them. And I think when they got out of the car, I think they were a bit shocked because I was saying to them about the speed situation. I go, right, we'll take out of the equation. I said, you're gone, right? You've wrecked the car and you've not only had you've done yourself in, but you've done your passengers in. I said, we'll forget about you because you're gone. But I said, think of your mum and dad now. They're going to get a knock to a door by 2 police or 2 Gardaí. And picture that news coming into them. And this was me in the car to them, and I swear to God, I think they were like, oh my God. I go, it's something you need to take into consideration when you get into a car. Not only for you, but for the people that you're putting into your car. You're destroying their lives too if this goes wrong. And I was like, trying to drum this into them and say, listen, it's fantastic, speed's fantastic, it's all good crack, we all love rallies, hill climbs. Everybody loves a bit of speed, there's no doubt about it. There is places to go, there's things to do. But for younger people coming through, they have to be educated and told the consequences are serious. When it goes wrong, you're out of the equation, but it's what you're leaving behind. And worse, if you survive as a driver and your passengers have passed away, to carry that burden knowing that you were speeding, oh my God, that must be hell on earth.
All right.
That must be hell on earth.
Anne-Marie on Facebook, totally agree with Patrick with regards road conditions and the hedges at the side, the roadside. So many road signs, warning signs are hidden behind trees now, which is a little bit of a hobby horse of mine too. That does annoy me. All right, Patrick, thanks for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Greg, sorry, Greg, before I go, could I get one more week back point? I've been on to my local TD about it over here in Gadore. I use the back of vehicle regularly. I was on to your assistant there on during the week, and it's to try and drum, and the people need to get behind us. The back of vehicle, we have to get signage for deer. It's only a matter of time before a family's destroyed, or they're always talking about culling. I don't think we need to cull them, but we need to signpost that there's deer on that road. There's no signs at all from Letterkenny to Gadore down the back of vehicle. There's not one sign for deer on that road, not one. And when you're going back the other way, coming from Gadore, heading to Letterkenny, when you turn off after the Iron Kirch, there's one sign there, one sign on that junction, and that's the only deer sign on that whole road. And I just think, we need to push. The people of the area need to keep getting onto our councils, get onto our TDs. We need to get signage for people, tourism. It is the main road. I don't care. I wouldn't go around the other road when I'm coming to Gadore. It's too long of a run. And I would still class that as my main road home. But at night time, after 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock, this last few nights has been packed with deer. And I just want people to be aware of it, but the council need to signpost it.
All right. Good stuff, Patrick. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you for your time. Lots of you messaging in on that issue. Let's get to some of those now. Greg, I drive 30,000 miles every year and haven't seen a checkpoint in years, including COVID. No God of presence on the roads. Another caller says, good morning. Instead of sex and porn education being taught in our schools, it would fit the government better to introduce safe driving courses and lessons for our young people. I'd like to make a comment about road collisions. The vehicles driven in Ireland are too powerful for the roads that we have. Road conditions are atrocious compared to other European countries. Our government is responsible. Well, Greg, I was travelling from Bundoran to Letterkenny. There was a Jeep ahead of me doing 80 kilometres per hour. I pulled out to pass it, and as I was next to him, there was a speed van there. I was done for speed because I was doing 130 kilometres per hour to get past this other Jeep, and I slowed down after passing the speed limit, but I got a €160 fine and 3 penalty points. Is this fair? It's a toughie. I know what you're saying. You momentarily breached the speed limit to, in your view, safely get around that Jeep. But I suppose they will probably say 100 kilometres per hour it's the upper limit. It's not a target. I'm not sure you certainly would. I wouldn't go to the bother of appealing it because you'll get your fine doubled and your penalty points doubled too, probably. The guards want to start looking at people texting and using mobile phones while driving on the roads. It's unbelievable. Good morning, Highland Radio. The number of people using mobile phones while driving is out of hand. As a HGV driver, I see people looking at their phones. That's why so many car collisions happen. I suppose they're in an elevated position, so they do see what's going on, when a guard, perhaps in a regular vehicle, or the rest of us don't see what's going on.
The 9 till noon show in association with Fit20 Letterkenny. Get fitter and stronger in just 20 minutes. Train once a week with a personal trainer in a climate-controlled gym. Increase strength at any age. Visit fit20.ie to book your free session.
Jack's been with Vodafone Broadband for 3 years and Aoife joined yesterday, but now they can get the same price. With Vodafone Broadband, you can pay just €40 a month and your bill won't double at the end of your contract. Available for both new and existing customers. After all, it's only fair. Find out more at vodafone.ie/broadband. Vodafone, together we can. Subject to signing up to Vodafone Home 500 megabit fibre broadband, 12-month minimum contract. Price subject to annual price adjustment of CPI plus 3% each April. For terms, see vodafone.ie/terms.
Due to popular demand, iMotors have extended their sale until the 30th of September, with over €150,000 of reductions across all stock. This is not to be missed. At iMotors, test drive any car and enter our draw to win €1,000 cash. Yes, €1,000 to take a test drive. Ends the 30th of September. When you buy, choose one of the following offers: 12 months tax, free ceramic coating, 24 months warranty, or your first finance payment covered by us. Low finance rates available. Check our website for all T's and C's. You will not want to miss out. Visit imotors.ie for more details.
Keep out the cold, 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 and ring Fleming for their full range of garage doors, agri doors, insulated doors, milking parlour doors. Fleming, 91 48 234.
Sheridan Security, now introducing zero-wire smart alarm systems. Zero wire, zero mess, and a real peace of mind. With a simple press of a button, your alarm can be set or unset, or download the free app and control it from your phone. Call us today on 074 912 6025 and get your alarm from €299. Stay local, stay safe, and protect what you value most with Sheridan Security Systems.
Okay, we are joined on the programme now by Cecily Gilligan, author of a new publication called The Cures of Ireland, a treasury of Irish folk remedies. Good morning to you, Cecily. Thanks for your time.
Good morning, Greg. Thanks for having me.
No, it's great to have you on the show. So, there's still a great interest in cures. People have the cures, so we know people would have reputations for having the cures for certain ailments, but then there are other things that people take as a cure. Is there a difference between these two areas, or are they all the one?
Well, they're probably all interconnected. Basically, I've done a lot of research for this book, and I found that there are primarily two types of cures in Ireland. There's faith cures, which are very common, and we also have herbal cures. But the difference in my research would be about 80% are faith prayer cures. People believe generally that the cure comes from God, and then the herbal cures exist, but they're less strong than they were in the past. We've lost a lot of the herbal cures. And then people would also use things like holy wells for healing, and healing clays, particularly strong in Donegal, healing stones. So, yes.
And how big of, I was going to say an industry, but I can't find the word. How big of a sort of a movement or activity is it now still? In other words, do we have any sense of across the Northwest how many people are seeking out cures? How many people are offering them?
Well, it's hard to quantify, but it definitely exists, and it's definitely quite strong, particularly in the Northwest. And I think particularly in Donegal, I would interview quite a lot of people from there, and people are still using the cures, and there's belief out there. Now, obviously, it has diminished from, say, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, definitely. And modern medicine is the dominant model, obviously, and people get great help there. But people are also interested in alternative types of medicines or therapies. And I think the traditional cures kind of come under that category also, because traditional medicine or the folk cures are, they address the needs of the person physically and psychologically and spiritually. Because there's usually, like you say, for example, if you go for a cure to somebody, often, you go to their house, you might have a cup of tea with them, you have a chat with them, they listen to your problems, apart from maybe you've got shingles, but you tell them what's going on in your life. So there's a kind of a supportive psychological element to the cure there, which is important. Yes. And
people might go, well, why do people not talk about cures as much as they might have in the past? But there's actually, as far as I'm aware, really quite tight regulations on the discussion or sharing of this information on, in radio stations and on newspapers as well. So they have been policied out of general conversation, certainly in the media anyway.
Yeah, well, that possibly may be the case, but also the tradition would be very much that the cures are passed by word of mouth. So you're looking for a cure for your asthma, and then you ask your neighbours, your friends, your work colleagues, and someone will tell you of a cure or a name or a number. So the cures have always been passed. The word of mouth is very strong, that tradition. And then also I found people were very private about their cures in general. And in my book, I describe the cures and I describe what the people do, but I don't give individual names or pinpoint exactly where they live. I generalize that because most people wanted to be private about their cure and they want it just kept like that. And also some people would have said to me that the actual looking for the cure and making the effort to find a cure, maybe driving down a few country roads and knocking on a few doors or making inquiries, that's actually part of the cure. Because I suppose you're actually going out there and you're empowering yourself and you're saying, I'm going to find this cure, it's going to help me. And it's a very good start basically to the healing process.
And this was a real deep dive. 93 men and women of all ages who currently dispense cures right now. How did you manage to reach all of those people and I suppose also, persuade them to take part?
Yeah, well, just like you're saying, it wasn't simple. It took a lot of time. I was 5 years and more researching this book part-time. I'm also a teacher, a primary teacher. But so I just would literally get a name, a few names, and then I would follow up a lead, just like any kind of investigative work. And I would find people, and then I always ask people, do you know somebody else who has a cure? And they might give me a name or two, and then I would look. And sometimes you get false leads, and sometimes occasionally someone wouldn't want to talk to me. But in general, I found people were willing to talk. And again, I said I respect their privacy. I wouldn't reveal their identity, and that's what I've done in my book. And so I hope that answers the question.
Yes, of course it does indeed. Now, you yourself coming from a position where you have a belief in cures.
Yes.
Because you've availed of them yourself.
Yes, I have. Yeah, well, I grew up in, and I still live in rural County Sligo, and the cures were very strong when I was growing up. So they were just part and parcel of our life. We took it for granted, and I suppose it was when I was older I started to realise that this is something special, something different, and maybe doesn't exist in all countries. So when I was, it was in the late 1980s. I was in university in Cork, and I did a project on the old cures, a thesis for my final year thesis for my degree, and that was a good piece of research. I went out and interviewed people, and then that would ultimately have led to this book. It was sort of the foundation for this book. But yeah, I do believe in the cures, and like what I say in my book, I don't think they work for everybody every time, but I think they work, maybe quite a lot of the time, and for many people. Everybody's different, everyone's an individual. That's what people who have cures would say to me as well. They say my cure mightn't work every time, but it works, maybe a good bit of the time. And I suppose just the one point there, I think, is that because the cures have managed to survive for hundreds, if not thousands of years, and they're currently surviving in 21st century Ireland, which is kind of amazing considering how society has changed so much medically and technologically. So I think because they have survived, it does say that they are effective, that they work. And that's what people would have said to me. My cure wouldn't survive if it never worked. People they wouldn't come back to me. So,
and is it the case that for the majority of the time it's not for notoriety or financial gain? I seem to recall chatting to someone some time ago. They didn't describe it as a curse, but they wanted to pass it on. I think it was one of those ones where it could be passed forward or something, that that they recognized that they had it, but they didn't want to have to keep going through the process. So, like, what is there a sort of a personality trait that was common through many of the people that you were looking into?
Yeah, well, I would say the personality trait is generosity of spirit. People give a lot of their time and energy to the cure. Some cures are quite complex, quite difficult, involving a number of visits. Other cures are quite simple. Maybe you say a prayer, like the bleeding prayer is, you just call the man, for example, one of the people that have it, and they make the cure. So it's relatively straightforward. There's a big investment of time and energy. So I would say generosity is very important. And yeah, for some people, I don't believe, from my research, I don't people have financially gained from cures. Occasionally, some people, especially if it's a herbal cure, might have a set fee, but generally it's fairly small. Some people will accept money. Many people will not accept money, or if they do accept money, they'll give it straight to charity, or they'll give part of it to charity. So I've discussed all that in my book, but I definitely don't think people use it. I think they use it because it's something that they've inherited, often as part of their family, their family's tradition, inheritance, and they want to keep the cures alive. And that point you made, cures can be tricky, they can be difficult. You know, someone said to me, you have to be a people's person. A man with a Bell's palsy cure from Armagh said that to me. He said you have to be a people's person, because you have to be, you know, willing people to come to your house, to engage with them, to chat to them on the phone, and often for no obvious reward. So yeah, it's complex.
Well, it's out now, published by Merriam Press. It's Cures of Ireland, a treasury of Irish folk remedies, and so this is not so to the public know, it's not a list of where you can get various cures, is it? This is about really just examining the whole, you know, how it's part of, you know, our history and our present history as well. It's that. So where can people get the book? Cecilia.
Okay, well, as they say, the book it's okay, Greg, thank you. The book is widely available in all good bookshops, as they say. I know it's available in Letterkenny, brilliant, in the shops there and everywhere, and you can get online from Merriam Press. But it's important. My book looks at, I don't individualize it. I talk about individual people, but what I try to do is look at the bigger picture to try and link all these disparate people who don't seem to have an obvious connection, and I link them together to the bigger picture, which is the ancient, very old tradition of healing in Ireland. Yes. And the cures are very old, and I hope it's part of people. I tried to make it as comprehensive and analytical as well, to try and understand it, to go into it in depth.
And it's really important too to sort of, for this to be noted, for a record of this, because we are changing all the while, and this is really, really important. But very quickly, from one generation to the next, this information and you know, this of who we are can be lost. Cecily, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Okay, Garmagat.
Bye-bye, Slán. That's Cecily Gilligan, author of The Cures of Ireland.
The 9 till noon show in association with Fit20 Letterkenny. Get fitter and stronger in just 20 minutes. Train once a week with a personal trainer in a climate-controlled gym. Increase strength at any age. Visit fit20.ie to book your free session.
Do you need a little extra help staying in your home? At Bluebird Care, we offer a wide variety of QMark-approved personalised home care services across Donegal. And our fully trained and committed staff will always meet your care needs with kindness, compassion and dignity. To get your personal home care assessment plan, visit bluebirdcare.ie or call our care team today on 07491 29562 and bring care home.
Guess what? The Aer Lingus September sale is now on. You can fly to some incredible North American destinations like New York, Orlando, Seattle, and more from just $159.99 each way as part of a return trip. Book now on airlingus.com. Discover all of our US destinations from just $159.99 each way as part of a return trip. Sale ends September 18th. T's and C's apply. Travel October 1st, 2023 to March 13th, 2024.
Do you suffer from high cholesterol, menopause symptoms, digestive issues, anxiety, aches and pains, or a lack of energy? The highly trained team at The Natural Way Letterkenny can provide advice on natural remedies for a number of individual health issues. The Natural Way also has its own brand of herbal treatments to help fight fatigue, relieve digestive discomfort, maintain a healthy immune system, and alleviate common menopause symptoms. The Natural Way at Letterkenny Shopping Centre, your one-stop health shop.
With all the stories that matter across the Northwest, it's Greg Hughes on the 9 to Noon Show on Highland Radio.
Okay, it's just turned 11:11. It's time for a news update, and it's over to Donald Kavanagh.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning. Retained firefighters have voted to accept proposals from the Workplace Relations Commission to resolve their industrial dispute. It follows intensive consultations last week and a secret ballot. SIPTU has welcomed the news, but warned that while today's vote ends the current strike, it doesn't end the battle. It comes after a protracted row over what the union described as poor terms and conditions for retained firefighters. Gardaí are seeking information or footage following a fatal traffic collision at Caraway Bridge near Bridgend on Tuesday last. The single vehicle collision involving a car happened between 8:30 and 9 a.m. The male driver was pronounced deceased at the scene. Gardaí in Buncrana are investigating. It was a busy day for the Bundoran Ornalai yesterday. They rescued 4 people in 2 separate incidents off Main Beach. 3 teenagers were taken from rocks after being caught in a rip current. After they were brought back to shore, the crew responded again to a separate call to a man who was also caught in a rip current. All were brought safely to shore. Gardaí in Letterkenny are seeking information on 2 assaults. In the first on Lower Main Street, a man was punched in the face just after 3 in the morning of Sunday, August 27th. He required hospital treatment. In the second, a man received eye injuries when he was attacked by another man in the Gortnagrania area just after 8:30 on Saturday last. More than 5% of adults are actively living with symptoms of long COVID in Ireland. Data in a survey commissioned by Dennis Naughton TD found that 76% of those with symptoms report their ability to perform daily activities has been reduced. 8 centres for long COVID, one of them in Letterkenny, were promised by the HSE 2 years ago. Deputy Naughton says they still haven't been delivered. The HSE says the X-ray service at Carndonagh Community Hospital is to move from a 3 to a 5 day a week basis. It says it's seen a large increase in GP referrals. Urgent referrals continue to be seen within 2 to 7 days, they say, but moving from a 3 to a 5 day service will bring waiting times down further. And the Managing Director of Donegal Airport says there's a possibility of further route development to other UK cities. Eilish Doherty was speaking after it was confirmed yesterday that the Donegal-Glasgow service will be further extended by Loganair in 2024. It was also confirmed yesterday that the airport has seen a record number of passengers travelling to Dublin last month. And we're back with news headlines again at 12 noon.
Thanks very much indeed, Donal. We'll be back with more on the programme after we take a break. But just to let you know that Tommy Rosney is going to be joining me for an extended chat. He is a legend of the Irish country music scene, and I'm really looking forward to talking to Tommy. And if you want to ask him a question, have anything to say, get in touch with us now. 086 60 25,000 WhatsApps and texts, or give us a call on 074 91 25,000.
Only Murders in the Building is back on Disney+. You
know what this means?
Murder?
Yeah, murder.
The stage is set for the wildest season yet.
We're onto something here.
Featuring Steve Martin, Martin Short, Selena Gomez.
Look at this cast. They're all killers.
As well as Paul Rudd and Meryl Streep.
This is so exciting.
I'm honored to work with you. Just don't upstage me.
Only Murders in the Building. New season now streaming exclusively on Disney+. 18+ subscription required. T's and C's apply.
Now, let's get to some of your comments. Hi, Greg. Have strong belief in cures, and they definitely work. In the last few months, I've got the cure for chickenpox for my children and the cure for thrush. They all worked. A caller says, I drive up and down from Donegal to Dublin through the night every 2 months, and I've never seen a Garda car. They must be in the office when on the night shift. Another, I'm a truck driver for over 40 years. I come to be beside cars and vans at roundabouts, and they are all on their phones on the motorway. It's worse because they think they are on a straight and no chance of anything driving into them. These extra speed vans will achieve nothing but money despite it being illegal. Everyone flashes each other to signal to a checkpoint or speed van. We need these checkpoints late at night, not just during the day. Sure, if you see a checkpoint ahead of you, you can put your phone down. We need better deterrence. Extra vans are not it, believes that listener. Another, I totally agree about speed and hedges on the roads. Side roads are so dangerous in Donegal, you cannot see out because of the overgrown hedges. Often you're in the middle of the road before you can see. The Green Party have a lot to answer for about road safety. Another here, a speed restriction device should be fitted by insurance companies for drivers with less than 5 years experience would be an idea. Well, some do. And you get reduced premiums because they monitor your driving behaviour. It's not widespread, but there certainly are a couple. I think Revolut are entering the market now, and they will give you discounts if you have a yoke on the car. Greg, will you let Sinead, whose daughter has hemiplegic migraines, to contact the Apex Headache Clinic in Belfast, where they might be of help to her? Yeah, indeed. And we have got a number of calls from people who certainly are also suffering these types of migraines. Can you give a shout out to Thomas and Dorothy Piper, who are 56 years married today, from daughter Sandra, husband Marcel and grandson Emmett? Please play a request for Emma Chudley, Clune Ard. Happy birthday from all the family, and Cordelia. Happy birthday to our wonderful neighbour, Teresa Neely from Corky Manor, Cunningham. Have a wonderful day, Teresa. Love Nicola, Gary, Zara, Shannon, and also Orla. And I want to say hello to Audrey, Rosemary, Marie, Michael, and Kathy, who are watching the programme on our website or Facebook or YouTube. We're on YouTube, Highland Radio Ireland, if you want to watch our next guest, Tommy Rosney. And a special hello to you, Kathy Slevin, who said, "Hi, Greg, thanks for the lovely day on Sunday. You really made my day." Well, Kathy, it was really, really lovely meeting you and having a chat to you. So thank you very much for that. Okay, we're going to take a break to clear the decks for our chat with Tommy. Stay right where you are.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio.
The 9 till Noon Show in association with Fit20 Letterkenny. Get fitter and stronger in just 20 minutes. Train once a week with a personal trainer in a climate-controlled gym. Increase strength at any age. Visit fit20.ie to book your free session.
If you know the beauty and skincare product that suits you best, you'll find them at McGee's Chemist Letterkenny. From moisturisers, cleansers and toners to day creams and night creams, McGee's have the top brands you know and love, like Lancôme, Clarins and La Roche-Posay. Also Elizabeth Arden, Vichy, Nukes and many more. All at McGee's Chemist, Main Street, Letterkenny, and online at mcgees.ie, where the best costs less.
At the Central Statistics Office, we're trusted to gather all sorts of information. So, we count exports, imports, airports and seaports. We count schools, pools and how many O'Tools? We count emissions, permissions and social conditions. We count beds, sheds and newlyweds. We count families, growing trees and diversity. Because this data informs important decisions on everything from economic activity to housing policy to what to call a new baby. And we can't do it without you. CSO. Count on us. We count on you.
Well, Grace, how are you today?
I'm good. I've just been down to the Made to Measure Fireplaces showroom in Creasla. They have an incredible selection of over 40 colours for kitchen worktops. And guess what? For a limited time, they're offering a 40% discount on any electric fire when you purchase a worktop there.
40%? That's an amazing deal, Grace.
Absolutely. And trust me, if the discount alone doesn't sway you, their huge selection of fireplaces, stoves, wood pellet burners, beams and stone cladding certainly will.
Contact Made to Measure Fireplaces Creasla on 074 91 38 365 on Facebook, Instagram and on mtmfireplaces.ie.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel Route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin when you book online and travel for less. Expressway, bringing you the time at...
Well, the time now is 9 minutes past 11.
Hi guys, this is Derek Ryan here. Stay tuned for the Country Boy. He's going to be playing a tune for my new album.
He is not. He's going to be talking to me, Greg Hughes. That is, of course, Derek Ryan, who put on a fantastic show for the thousands upon thousands of people that descended onto Tyrconnell Gales GEA grounds for the London Irish Vintage Club's Vintage Day. Unbelievable. He did well. And he'd just come in, Tommy, from a gig in Wicklow, I think it was, or Wexford, one of the W's. And straight into it, onto another gig. They work hard, those boys, don't they?
Yeah, they work very hard. It's amazing how many has come on the scene over the last couple of years. And it's great. It got a lot of young people into radio. I remember back in the early days, you know, you weren't cool if you were playing country. But it's mental altogether at the moment.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I love it.
Tommy, we wanted to chat to you. Tommy Rosney, the country boy, a presenter here at Highland Radio. And you've got the longest running country show in radio in Donegal now. And I would say you would give them nationally a run for the money. How long have you been in broadcasting radio of one sort or another now, Tommy?
Started late 1980, Greg. I was working down in the old Best stores, or the old Dunn stores as it was at the time. And Jerome Keeney and Richard Crowley. Richard went on to RTE fame after that. The two boys arrived down to me one day and they said, would you be interested? We're starting up a local radio station. Would you be interested? And I said, God, I would. What do you have to do? Says he, do a demo for us. And at that stage, I didn't even know what's a demo.
Yeah.
And says he, it's just you make a little recording of yourself introducing records. And at the time, I had one of those old, do you remember those radios with the 2 cassette tapes in it.
Indeed,
I had them, and all I had at home that time was tapes. So I went over and I'd put on a tape and I'd play a bit of a song and I'd cut it off and I'd come into the microphone and say, that was Loretta Lynn and Rose Garden here. So, and I made a wee 10-minute video for it and I gave it to the lads. And never heard anything for about 3 months. And about 3 months later, the boys arrived down in the shop to me and they said, we were doing a bit of test broadcast now, but we're going to go live in the next month or two. Would you be interested in doing a show? And I said, yeah, I would. So they said, come up to Jerome's house. They were broadcasting in a back room in Jerome's house. And all you had there at the time, you had your little mixing console, and all we were using was tapes, not even CDs, but just tapes, 4-track tapes. And they said, there's your microphone, there's your top deck, and there's your bottom deck. And I was just left alone. The first week I was broadcasting, we were only test broadcasting, so they said, if you make a mistake, don't worry about it, you'll get the hang of it. And then when you got the hang of it, you were flying. And
brilliant stuff.
Just started from then.
And it was country.
Oh, I stuck to country. Everybody else was playing the kind of pop or easy listening music. And that's how the old tag got on me in the early days, is the country boy. And it's amazing, people would call you, sometimes now people who know I do country on the show here, they'd call you the country boy before they'd call you Tommy Rosney. And I think an old tag, it was an identity that stuck with me down through the years. Although I wouldn't be a country boy now, I'd be nearly a country granddad at this.
No, always a country boy.
Always a country boy, young at heart.
And have you played music live at all? Do you have any music in you?
No, I tried. I could sing an old song back in my school days. Myself and a few of my friends had formed a little band just after we left college in the early 70s. 2 brothers and another lad in Sligo, and we formed a little band. And I would sing. I tried learning the guitar at one stage, but my fingers are that soft.
Just wasn't.
The blood was coming out of me.
Yeah.
Although I could always play a piano with one hand, but I couldn't get the bass band. But that particular band that I played with after school, when I came up to Letterkenny to work in 75, Sandy Kelly had come home from Wales, and Sandy had took over that band, and she was with them for 3 or 4 years before she went and joined the Duskies. But I always say, Sandy, you stole my band from me. Back
and obviously then you wanted to perform, so was DJing sort of a way of reaching people and a sort of a type of performance for you when maybe singing or guitar or piano was not necessarily going to be a career for you?
Yeah. I always liked being involved in music. When we had that little band back home, we were doing all 60s and 70s music. I only got into the country when I came up to Donegal. And I always liked it. Like I would say to certain artists now, if I see Nathan Carter, Derek Ryan or them, you see them out on stage and the buzz they get from it. My buzz is sitting here at night time on my own in front of that thing and playing the music you love.
Yeah.
And it's not a job, it's a pastime. You come up here, I could sit the whole night.
Do you feel the connection with the audience? Because some people, and I don't really get it, but some people sort of say they have to pinch themselves, that they're not just sitting and talking to themselves, but do you get that sense of connection with your audience?
Yeah. It's great. You'd have your own little cult following. And, compared to the early days when I started off in the late 80s and right up through. See, I was with Jerome and the boys up until around 1980.
What was that station actually called?
It was just called Radio Donegal.
Right, simple as.
And then when it kind of...
That was a pirate, wasn't it?
It was a pirate.
Yeah.
And then what we used to do, I used to be on 5 nights a week from 6:30 to 8 o'clock. And then what I used to do in my summer holidays, we used to do what they called festival radio. We used to go down to... I used to take my summer holidays, and the first week I would take it, we would go down and do Radio Burtonport.
Right.
There was a guy called Miller, I forget his name, he used to put up the aerial. We'd have only had a radius of about maybe 5 or 6 miles, but we used to set up an old mobile caravan at the Cope in Dunlow or in Burtonport, and for the first week it would be Radio Burtonport. Then on the Sunday night we would get a heavy tractor, bring it up to the Austin car park, and we'd be Radio Dunlow the second week. It's funny when David was doing his radio live broadcast from Dunlow there the other week, I was just saying here on the Wednesday night, God, I said, that brings back memories, all the summers I used to do Radio Dunlow before David was even taught in his mother and father's eyes.
Yeah, well, you were doing outside broadcasts before they were a thing, really, effectively, just for a full week.
Sure, I remember, you were down judging at the Mary Dunlow Festival we used to do a live broadcast from the Mary of Dunlow Festival in the Pirate Days. And you know we did it? There was a man in Dunlow had a CB transmitter, and one of the lads used to go into the back of the hall at the Mary Dunlow, and he would be broadcasting from CBD, and we'd have connected up to one of the lines in the deck. And I'd be sitting out in the caravan, just out in the car park, and I say, "What's the latest? Who's won?" Or we used to do it like that.
No, but it was done. It's the same as kind of stuff that's done now. It's just you were using the technology that was available to you at that time. So DCR then.
DCR was a great radio station.
Where was that based, and how did you get involved with it?
That was based... after Radio Donegal closed down, I worked with two brothers from Tyrone. They were called the O'Neills, and I was with them for a while. And you could do a show back those days. You could have done a show for 4 or 5 hours, no problem. Might have been only 4 DJs, but we'd have split it up between us. But then when that had stopped for a couple of months, Bobby McDade, who owned Funland in the Main Street, Bobby arrived out to my house one day and he said, "Tommy, you're thinking of starting up a radio station. Would you be interested?" And I said, "Oh, Bobby, I'd love it." So we started up DCR, and it went from 1986 right up to 1989. I actually did the last show on the pirate station in DCR because in 1989, they were going to make the stations legal in 1990. So the last show on all pirate stations had to stop in December 1989. And that time I used to do... 5 shows a week. I used to do 8 to 12 night time, and I did a Sunday from 12 to 2.
What did you feel like doing the last show? Did you got a gig with the next crew yet, or as far as you were concerned, was that maybe going to be your last show on radio?
No, well, we had a funny feeling that when Highland had come in, or all the legal stations had come in, that they would go for DJs who worked on the Pirates.
Voices.
Sorry?
Yeah, established voices.
Established voices. Because, see, there was another good station up in Buncran at the time, NWCR. Mm-hmm. And like some of the lads who were up there, like Canis next door used to be with them. And there was Mickey Bradley and the lads used to be them. I remember the late Vincent Kelly was with us in DCR. Gene Kern was in DCR. And there was a few others who came on.
Did you have much interaction with the likes of Glencoe Radio or KTOK or any of those South Donegal-based sort of pirates?
Not really. Okay. Not really. But DCR had a great listenership, and NWCR, there would have been the two main pirate stations. I know there was another one up in Inishowen on Radio North, and it was going as well. But it was great. Like if it hadn't been for the likes of us, the country singers you hear today, they were getting no airplay on RTE. Yeah. Pascal Mooney, as far as I know, was the only country show on RTE.
Well, how many stations were there? There was
hundreds of them around the country.
Yeah, but how many legal, in inverted commas, stations? How many legal stations? There wasn't that many of them. Do you know what I mean? Before
RTE had the monopoly. It was RTE. It was only because of the pirates that the government decided then to issue license out to give it to local radio stations because they've seen how popular it was.
Yeah, exactly. And the artists of the day recognise that, though. You know what I mean? They recognise how important it was, and even to this day, you will struggle as a country music artist to get your music played on national radio.
That's right.
It's still to this day really the local community regional stations that are supporting
definitely.
There's no doubt about that.
I remember when we used to do the pirate stations down in Dunlow, there was a young fella who used to come into us, and all the time he had a vinyl record, and I'm not sure where he went since, but he had a song called My Donegal Shore, and Daniel something, what's this, his second name was?
Is it an O'Donnell? No,
he could have been an O'Donnell. He used to come in, and I remember Dominic Kerwin used to come to us with his first vinyl record. I forget the name of it off the top of my head, but there was a lot of those artists. Like a lot of the newer lads, I'd have had them, but the McFlavins, the Declan Earneys and all them, we would have played all them before more than the national stations. What
was the sense, though, of when the pirates were closing down? Now, a lot of the pirates were ran as good as any radio station were run.
Yeah.
I think sometimes. I mean, you talked about the early days with CBs and stuff, but you know, like I think I think KTOK and RT Radio 2 with only 2 FM stations in the whole country.
That's right.
One of them being a pirate, which was really quite remarkable. So they were well resourced and. But it's fun. If I remember correctly, the only reason KTOK was called KTOK was because they got jingles from a station in America called KTOK.
Yeah.
And they they just went with that name because they had all the beds and the jingles ready to go. But anyway, what was the feeling? And I think the closest I might have to it was when Northwest Radio lost the license and it went to Ocean FM. There was this awful sense of change and people going, it'll never be the same again, and you can't take away our radio station, and we know and love all of these old voices and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Was that what it was like as the switch from pirate to sort of legal radio was, that people thought it's never going to be the same again, we're going to lose something that will never be replaced?
Yeah, some people would have thought that. You were mentioning that station down in Sligo, because I'm originally from Sligo, and I remember me brother and me family all used to think when that lost the licence, and they're saying, who's this Ocean FM? They're not local, you know. But no, I always found Donegal had a great connection with the local radio stations, and you know, you hate to say it, but I'd have been a kind of a household name back in the 80s. It's amazing. There was a man rang me there just before Christmas, and he said, my mother is celebrating her 92nd birthday, and I'd love you to come over and present her with a bouquet of flowers. But when you come over, I don't want you to say who you are. So her name was Mary. She lived over in Knock and Ballybuffet, and I went over on Christmas Eve, and Michael brought me over and he said, now when we go into the house, say nothing until I tell you to say something. So I went into the house and the two ladies were there. I was supposed to go over 2 years ago, but the COVID stopped at that. They can't. So I went over into the house and Mary said to her son, who's this man, Michael? And he said, he's just a man I brought over to see you. And Michael said to me, say something. I said, now Mary, God, I thought you'd know me. He said, it's the country boy from Highland Radio.
Fantastic.
And you know, the buzz you get out of that alone, you know, the enjoyment you get out of that.
Were you, we'll talk about your career with Highland and beyond that, but were you doing any pubs or clubs DJing at the same time as well, or?
Not really. I used to do an odd DJ in the Limelight and Lenties back, but...
Wasn't your thing?
No, not really. I would always have kind of done myself as a radio presenter.
Yeah, because you know yourself, there's often a crossover there then. So then you get the call to come into Highland. Is that how it went? Or?
Well, I had gone for an interview first.
Right.
I had gone for an interview first, and then you were eventually called in. You always had this thing, maybe they won't take you at all, maybe they want to get somebody totally new. You know, there was always that thing at the beginning.
You simply don't know, do you?
You don't know, will they take me on or not, you know? Then
but they did. And what was your show to begin with?
It was just all country.
Yeah, but was it weekend? Was it?
No, I was doing 4 shows.
Yeah.
I remember one time I was asked to go over and do an interview with Slim Whitman was over in Ireland on a tour, and he was over in Frankie's in Rafo. And I was asked, would I go over and do an interview with him? And I said I would. So I went over at 3 o'clock in the day. He was doing a sound check, and said he'd be doing the sound check from 3 to 4, and then I'd get him for an interview. And when he finished his interview, he decided he wanted to go for a rest in the hotel. And he was staying in the Central Hotel in Rafo, and I went over after him, and I sat in the Central from 4 o'clock until 7 before he came down. I was just about to go home. I rang up Margo and I said, Margo, will you come get me to hell with him? I'm not waiting anymore. You know, if he wants an interview, he should be here. But I eventually got him, and I got a nice 15 or 20 minutes out of him. But sometimes it's great, you know, when you get the interviews. And sometimes doing interviews is like trying to take blood out of a stone, and then you get other interviews and you don't have to say a word.
Yeah, they just and did you do a lot of? I mean, you talked about obviously your early interactions with household names now, Daniel O'Donnell, etc. But was it in Highland where you started doing the interviews? Because you've interviewed the who's who of country, but did that really start with the Highland platform?
Yeah, well, the international ones, the American ones mainly from Highland. But before that, I had done a lot of interviews with the Irish artists. I remember one time I was asked to do an interview with Brian Call, and I knew Brian was a country artist, but to be honest with you, I'd been playing his music, but I didn't know a lot about him.
Yeah.
So one of the lads at the station brought me out a basic 10 or 15 questions to ask Brian, and I started off the interview, and I said, I'm delighted to be joined by country legend Brian Call here. Brian, how are you doing? And after that, anybody who knows Brian just talks. And after that, I just threw away the questions. And Brian said to me later, says we were like 2 old friends I met in the street.
It's a lovely compliment to you.
It was a lovely compliment. You know, like, I didn't have to ask him a question after that, because anything I was going to ask him, he nearly mentioned, and we just chatted like we were just chatting on the street, you know, which is great, because as you know yourself, the perfect interview is when the interviewee does the talking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, indeed. And So some of the names that you've interviewed, Tommy, I mean, who's your favourite? And it's an obvious question, but who did you go, wow, I've just done that interview and I've got that one in the bag?
Yeah, well, over the years, you know, my kind of country would be my kind of country. I'm not into the new American country stuff. I'm into more the traditional stuff. And the last time I was out in Nashville, I got to meet Finn Skill. Now, he was a dream, and it's such a humble guy. I'd been out there. The Eagles had been over in Ireland in 2018 in the summer, and I was out in Nashville that November, and I got to meet him. He played with a group out there every Monday night called the Time Jumpers. They're all session players, and I had arranged to get an interview with him, and I got to meet him. And the first thing I said to him, I said, God, Vince, I was at you in Dublin there earlier in the year. You were great. And he was so humble, but he was a big name to get. The last time I was out, I interviewed his wife, not him, Randy Travis. Randy Travis had a stroke about 5 years ago, and he hasn't got his full speech yet, but he was launching his book down at the Ernest Tubb record shop, and himself and his wife Mary was there, so I got to interview her. But he was there and he was fully aware who I was and that, and it was lovely just to meet him.
And is there someone, you talked about not really necessarily being into the new American country, but you've interviewed Luke Combs, haven't you? And I think he's kind of the poster boy of new.
I like Luke. He was actually over at Country to Country a couple of years ago in Dublin, and I met him and I had a short interview with him. I didn't actually play it on the station. I have it in cold storage.
Well, now's the time to dig it out, because his tickets are like eyed teeth. Talking
of interviews, Greg, I have one out this Wednesday night on the show. He's a guy I met in Nashville 2 years ago, and before I went, I never heard of him. His name is Verlin Thompson, and a friend of mine out in Nashville, Irish Bernadette, she's from Convoy, Bernadette Tinney. When I was out, I know Bernadette, and Bernadette said, there's a guy I've lined up for you now to do an interview. His name is Verlin Thompson. And I said, who? Verlin who? Verlin Thompson. And she said, he was Guy Clark's right-hand man. So she brought me out to a studio, and I did the interview with him in the studio. Just him and me. He was sitting with his guitar, and I was chatting to him. And I knew a few of the songs he had wrote, but I didn't know him. So I started doing the interview with Verlin. And I'll tell you, that year I had interviewed a few other artists out there as well, but that was one of the most best ones I ever did. And I'm putting it out now on Wednesday night. And he sings 3 songs in the interview. And
that's not a bad one to have in the can, is it?
He had been telling me he was in Ireland plenty of times with Guy Clark, but he'd be the guy who does the picking and writes the songs with him. And class act.
All right.
I'd love to get him up to Paul and Jimmy.
Yeah, indeed. A caller says, I was travelling from Sligo to Ballybofey back in the 70s. I picked up a hitchhiker outside Sligo who was carrying a guitar and said he was working in Dunn Stores in Letterkenny. I often wondered if it was the country boy.
Well, I could have been carrying a guitar, but I wouldn't have been playing it.
Okay,
Plenty of time. I used to come down to Sligo at the weekends when I'd be finished work.
Yeah.
And it was great, the amount of people. You might get a lift from Letterkenny to Ballybofey, or you might get one from Letterkenny to Donegal town. And I always found if you were stuck in Bundoran, you could be there a long time, because people wouldn't know you there, because people would know you in this side of the county.
Yeah.
That was good. That was good. I met my wife through the radio, you know.
Right. Tell us how that happened.
Back in the old pirate days, you know, I used to, you know how you'd be, we used to answer the phone ourselves at night time. And Margot and her mother used to ring in requests. And, you know, you hear a voice and you kind of strike up a friendship with them. And I said, hello, how are you? Where do you live? And she said, oh, in Glencar. And they were always looking for Charlie Pride. So I arranged to meet her one time, and I just met her, and we were just friends. But she used to listen to the radio all the time, and just friends. And now I'm married to her 36 years.
Best thing came out of working in the radio?
Yeah.
I
have to say so.
Great to hear Tommy. The best show on Highland for Music. Spent many a night taping Tommy and editing tapes before music, because so readily available. Keep up the good work, Tommy. So you were there, they were taping the stuff you were playing. Please say hello to Tommy, a true country boy and a lovely person from the Flavin fans in Glencar. Tommy, loved by all his fans, is so easy to listen to. Think it's his lively accent. Best wishes, Tommy, always. Another here, the country boy is some boy for one boy. That's coming in from Sergeant Jack Beattie.
I was over visiting him yesterday.
I was going to say, you and Sergeant Jack taking the internet by storm.
Oh, will you stop? I met him down at the tractor run on Saturday, and we had a wee chat, and he's a great guy, and his mum and dad are great people as well. And I'm telling you, he would have had a tough time of it at times. I know he'd been in and out of hospital, but I've never seen a young fella with an attitude like him. He's great, and he's a big fan of the Tumbling Paddies as well, but we won't hold that against him. No, he's very good. But they're good too, They're good.
I think they're, to be honest with you, Tumbling Paddies, and who's the other group? I always mix the two of them up. I think the scene needed that a little bit.
Wouldn't be the Whistling Donkeys.
The Whistling Donkeys. And, I think the likes of, it even helps the likes of Nathan and Derek and others, that there's just a bit of, it's like a bit of adrenaline pushed back into the industry a little bit. That lifts everybody. Not that, listen, established artists, but I think that there needed some fresh faces on the scene.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does, because I always found, Greg, and I'm not joking, I always found in the Irish country circuit, there was a kind of a closed shop. There was a certain amount would have got all the airplanes. There's some young ones coming on through now, like Olivia Douglas and the Tumbling Paddies. Now, I was talking to the Tumbling Paddies manager the other day, Andrew Cox, and he was telling me they sold out over 1,000 tickets for Cork within half an hour. And it's great. And it's good to see new acts. There's a lot of, compared to the early days, there was an artist here in Letterkenny, and if he had been around today, he'd have been a megastar. Hugh McLean. When Hugh was out there in the early days, he was getting no airplay because it was only RTE. Whereas at the present time, with all the local radio stations, he'd been a megastar because Hugh was a fine singer.
Good morning, Greg. Great interview with Tommy. I never knew that he drove a tractor, but I've got great memories of singing our way through Death Valley. A true gentleman, regards, Michael.
Michael Diver. Okay. I never drove a tractor. Michael shared with me. We were out on a trip through Vegas, and Michael was on the trip, and he's down there in Guidor, and there was some crack. Big into Michael Martin Murphy.
Tommy, I love your choice of music. Keep up the great work. Great to hear, Tommy. Himself and Brendan Maxwell were the only people interviewing young on the country music scene, and gave us all a great start in the industry. That's from Terry McCafferty in Strabane.
Oh, Terry is good. But it's amazing, the amount of women said to bring me to bed with them every night.
You're their radio husband.
Honest to God. It's funny down through the years though, Greg, you get, nowadays it's all texts and social media. I love the social media. Like, I'm always willing to learn.
You're brilliant at it.
I'm at it a long time, but I love social media, and like, since the lockdown here, Fanula that bought into social media, and it's great. I'm always open for new tricks. As I said, I started off with tapes, then it was vinyl, then it was CD, now it's MP3, and you can do, the way it is with me, radio is radio. And you'd have lots of listeners out there who never ring in a request at night because they can't text. But they'll be listening in, especially older people living out in the country that love you. And I was blessed. The only thing, a kind of a voice comes across. I didn't have the Donegal accent. And it was a different accent. Maybe that's what worked for me. I don't know. But I think when people listen to the radio, if you just are yourself rather than trying to put on a voice, people see through you if you're...
What's it like getting over to someone so, with such a love of the country music, and with a name like the Country Boy? Is Nashville the Mecca? Is that where you feel like...
Oh, yeah. When I die, if I don't go to heaven, I want to go to Nashville. I would go back to Nashville. I loved it. And I've been out a few times now, and each time I go out, I would go to the real... if anybody who's been out on Broadway, it's all rock, nearly all rock music now, but there's certain venues you can go to if you like the real trad stuff. Yeah. Because the last time I was out, the last two times I was out, I was at the CMA Awards, and I might as well have been at the MTV Awards. And I call a spade a spade. What's I know the music evolves and it goes around, but like some of the stuff they're playing now, it's not country. It's pop. It's pop.
Yeah, you want it to stick to its roots then?
Yeah. Like there's so many different kind of genres in the country. You have bluegrass, Americana is very popular now. You have the traditional music, and then there's this guy, I see a guy on the CMA Awards doing a rap. And then they're bringing in these pop stars to do duets with them. And like, I know everybody, and maybe it's bringing in... See, out in Nashville, it's the... record companies that are controlling the artists. A lot of the artists are good country singers, but they're not allowed to do it because it's all to bring in the kids.
But they're probably all looking for the next Taylor Swift or something as well.
That's it.
because there's no one has crossed over more successfully in this world than she has. Yeah. If I could set up an interview, a half-hour interview for you, someone either you have interviewed and you'd love to go back to again, or that you never got a chance to interview, alive or dead, who would you like to sit down with for a half an hour or an hour and talk about their career?
3 names I have on my bucket list.
Yeah.
Alan Jackson, George Strait, or Willie Nelson.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of other artists out there as well. I had, in the coming weeks, I'll have a few different ones who people won't know of, but to me, they were real traditional music. When I was out in Nashville the last time, I met a guy called Laurie Cordell. He's a singer-songwriter. He wrote Highway 40 Blues for Ricky Skaggs, and he wrote numerous songs that were hits for other people. And I love talking to people like that. They have some stories to tell about their...
You talk about things being modern now. I found myself on TikTok. I watched a couple of videos. I liked a couple of videos where it is songwriters at the piano, and they've either written melodies or they've written songs. Like you would probably know who they were, but I don't. And they sort of go through over a couple of minutes of how they come to write this song. Never knew they existed, but they're responsible for these songs that are just ever present.
Well, what's great about it too at the moment, Greg, for young people, not just talking in the country genre, but my daughter now, Anita, you know Anita, she hadn't heard Grace for a lifetime. And when she heard Grace, and she's into all this stuff now, like Irish artists, songwriters, are old ballads that she wouldn't have heard. And she said, Daddy, what do you think of this guy? And I said, I'm playing him for years.
Hello to Tommy, love his music, Molly Russell.
Molly.
Hello, Tommy. Best DJ from Mary McKelvey and Paddy. Enjoying your interview with Greg. Hi again, Greg. Hello, Tommy. Tommy the Country Boy is there. Any way you could use your magic powers to get the super talented Alan Jackson to come to Ireland? To me, he's just the best. I'm in my 50s now and I've been an adamant country fan since I started high school. My pals, friends, etc. all thought I was mad in the head, but I don't care. It's great to see all the Irish country talent, young and old, doing so well. Keep her lit. There's no show like a Highland country show. Safe home for Mary, Catherine and Andrea.
Yeah, that's great.
I was at Electric Picnic at the weekend. Heard a local band, someone's son's band. Absolutely amazing. Don't know who that is. Good man, Tommy from the Dancing Donkeys.
Oh. Familiar? He wanders around Killybegs. He never leaves his name. It's just the Dancing Donkey.
Don't know who he is.
Oh, well, stop. But you're talking about people who are saying there, country shows. Everybody has their favourite country show. This thing about you're the best DJ here or you're the best DJ... It's nice to get a compliment like that, but I wouldn't go out and say it on the air. Like, people have their favourite, and with me, really, Greg, it's all about the music. Playing requests, and it's all about the music. And, my preference really would be American traditional, but I play the Irish country as well, because if people are ringing in me at night, if they take the time to text in and ask for a song, why shouldn't I play it?
Yeah, okay.
That's what it's all about,
Hi, Greg. Great interview. Say hello to Tommy from Kathleen McKay, Aileen, Martin and Grace in Strabane. You talked about Grace there. Lovely interview with Tommy. I always listen to him from Marie O'Donnell from beautiful Carradart. And it's a great opportunity. It's a great gift to be on radio, Tommy.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
I believe it is anyway, because you get to reach people and it opens the door. I am particularly, believe it or not, quite a shy person, but with doing this type of work, you sort of get to meet people and
same as you, Greg. Same as you. I'd have been very shy. When I used to go to dances when I was younger, I would never come on and head on and ask a girl. I'd have to come in from behind and mingle. I'd be too shy. But, it's strange to an odd time. Linda might put me on an odd time during the day, and I'd find it wild strange doing a show during the day, because I'd be so used to the night thing. I'd be coming on and say, if you just joined us tonight, or, you're just a nighttime boy, and as I say, I get the buzz in there where you are. And it's strange actually sitting over here and you were asking me the questions.
I know. Listen, I sat in that seat for Lee Gooch on Friday morning. And it's just a strange thing, so you don't have all these buttons to... great boy for the country boy from Eamon McCann fans. Tommy knows who we are. Hi to Tommy from all the O'Learys. Ask Tommy what he thinks of the music of today, when no musical instruments, no human voices were harmed in the making thereof, just a computer-generated cacophony. Listen, there's always going to be developments in terms of how music's put together, blah, blah, but good music will always... Firstly... Good music will always find its way.
Exactly.
And it will always take human interaction. So fads may come and go, but basically, if you're listening to a classic station, you know the songs that are going to be on it.
Yeah.
And you know the songs that drop off after a month.
Like, even though I'm all country, I listen to all sorts of music. The only music I don't like is the synthesized boom, 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 that stuff. But like anything, I could listen to anything from opera to rock and roll, any type of music, traditional music I love as well. And it's just that, but I'm just 100% country on here.
Right, so you're back on air Wednesday with special interviews you mentioned.
Furlan Thompson, really looking forward to. He was great. It was only when I was listening back to it I had recorded. When I listened back, I realised what a nice guy he is, you know, and what an artist, what a guitar picker he is. And he actually he sings a song.
I don't think you can learn that, Tommy.
No.
I think that has to be, it's like someone who can make a 147 break at snooker or throw a 9-dart, or I think you have to be born with
some kind of a
gift to be able to be a real picker.
Yeah. Or being like doing what you and I do. It's kind of a gift, because down through the years I would never have been a script man. I'm all off the top of my head. And like yourself, you know, you can just...
No, I don't use scripts.
Yeah, no, but you can carry a show off just like that, you know, and it's a kind of a gift. People say it to you, but, you know, usually people say you're embarrassed when they pay a compliment, but I don't think we take enough compliments.
Well,
usually,
compliments.
I know. Usually people would pay you compliments when you're dead, when you can't get them, but somebody said you should tell them when they're alive.
I says I don't like compliments, and I genuinely don't. And Caroline Orr in my ear, I made a little slip on Sunday and called her Caroline O'Connor, who's a lovely ex-colleague here.
Oh yes, Caroline.
But I'm not going to be allowed to forget misnaming my radio wife, Caroline Orr. But no, you know I don't like compliments, Caroline. You know that, because you never give me any. All right, Tommy, listen, come here. It doesn't matter about me. It's about you. I just wanted to have a chat to you, Justin, to recognise it. And we don't sometimes.
It's amazing.
We don't recognise people.
It's amazing sometimes the nighttime jocks and the daytime jocks, the only time we meet would be at the Christmas parties. And it's great, you know. It's great to have an old chat with you about young music.
All right, brilliant stuff. Anything we missed, Tommy, that you want to mention? I think it's like anything in life too. You have to have good people around you to keep doing what you
we have a good team up here. You know, we have a good team up here. And
okay.
The boss upstairs, Linda, you know, she's the main woman here, you know.
Yeah, all right. Without Linda, it would not be possible.
No.
All right, Tommy, listen, thanks very much. Looking forward to you back on air on Wednesday evening. That's the country boy, the one and only Tommy Rosney. And as I say, he's back with you on Wednesday. And Tommy, thanks again for coming in for a quick chat.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
The 9 till noon show in association with Fit20 Letterkenny. Get fitter and stronger in just 20 minutes. Train once a week with a personal trainer in a climate-controlled gym. Increase strength at any age. Visit fit20.ie to book your free session.
Tá mudna in ESB Networks ag gobar lena chintu go bhfuil síl glán letrach in ándún go léir in éidean. Agus mar chud san chlór náisiúnta an méadrú cliste, tá méadid cliste letrachis á sitsálinis agan i de cheantar. A bhuichastó is beag billa measta a dheofatú. Cabhar se leat súla chuineal ar an méad letrachis a úsáidin tú ar bhealach níos fearr, agus by fáil agad ar thorgaí agus seirbhísí cliste. Déanam it sangó leat rih hitsal de féidir. Tá tilla ólis le fáil ag esbnetworks.ie/smart meter.
The Olive Grove Pizzeria is now open at the new Smokes and Grills restaurant in Letterkenny, serving freshly made, mouth-watering pizzas every Wednesday to Sunday from 12. To celebrate the opening during September, a 12-inch pepperoni pizza is just $7.50. This great deal is available to sit in or take away. The Olive Grove Pizzeria at Smokes and Grills in Riverside Retail Park, Letterkenny. Call 9113333 or see Smokes and Grills on Facebook.
PDO thread lifts and skin boosters, which rejuvenate the skin by improving facial contours, lifting and tightening the jowls, neck, cheeks and eyebrows, are available at Genesis Aesthetics and Skincare Clinic, Gweedore. To choose the right aesthetic treatment for you, contact Mary Ferry, your aesthetic practitioner. Also offering fat-dissolving treatments, dermal fillers and laser treatments for all skin conditions. Hair and makeup packages also available. Genesis Aesthetics and Skincare Clinic, Gweedore. 07495 325 75.
Hi, I'm at the Garda station, but it's nothing. I told this girl I was seeing for a while that I'd put shots of her up online. Shots she sent me, so they're mine, really. I only said I'd do it. The guards are saying that's a crime now. It's not my fault, Mum. I didn't do anything. I only said I would.
Threatening to share intimate images is a crime with serious consequences. Contact your local Garda station if you need to report it. Brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
The 9 till noon show in association with Fit20 Letterkenny. Get fitter and stronger in just 20 minutes. Train once a week with a personal trainer in a climate-controlled gym. Increase strength at any age. Visit fit20.ie to book your free session.
Here at House to Home Interiors Bridgend, we are celebrating becoming a sister company of Braden's Furniture Moville. So, for the month of September, we will be marking this occasion with in-house offers, and we will be having weekly and monthly giveaways. Call in to House to Home Interiors Bridgend, only 20 minutes drive from Letterkenny, for all your home furnishing and floor covering needs.
Every day of your life, you have lots of places to go. Whether you're off to the local shop or visiting friends, how you choose to get there counts. By choosing to take public transport or walking or cycling whenever you can, you're doing your bit to help reduce Ireland's transport emissions. It's why €1 million a day is being invested in walking and cycling infrastructure all across the country. Because wherever you're going, your journey counts. Visit gov.ie/your journey counts. Brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
At Hickey, Clark and Langan Insurance Brokers, they compare quotes from all the leading insurers, so you get a great price. Home, motor and van, farm, holiday home, travel and liability insurance, they quote them all. So if the worst happens, you're covered. For a competitive insurance quote today, call Hickey, Clark and Langan on 9126688 or pop into their office at Ballymacool, Letterkenny. Hickey, Clark and Langan General Insurances Limited, trading as Hickey, Clark and Langan, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
At Cherrymore Kitchens and Bedrooms, we are now operating out of one new state-of-the-art showroom in Donegal Town. And we invite you to visit our new 5,000 square foot Donegal Town showroom to discover the latest eye-catching designs. Remember, at Cherrymore, you're dealing directly with the manufacturer, which means high-quality kitchens at factory prices. Start planning your dream kitchen or bedroom by calling Cherrymore on 074 9725 822. Cherrymore, 25 years delivering value, quality and service all over Ireland.
Now, there's no doubt the defective concrete block crisis is an awful blight for us here in the Northwest, but it's a global issue. There are hundreds of homes around Trois-Rivières, a town between Montreal and Quebec City. They're damaged after they were built with low-quality concrete that contained a mineral which expands when it comes into contact with water and air. Experts from that area came over to Donegal as part of that international conference on defective blocks that was held in Letterkenny last November. And now we are going back in the other direction. Dr. Eileen Doherty is a lecturer at University Ulster, and Professor Paul Dunlop of the School of Geography and Environmental Science at Ulster University. Both of you, thank you very much. I know you're at the airport. I appreciate your time.
Good morning, Greg. How are you doing?
Good. Eileen, I might start with you if that's okay. This is important, isn't it, in terms of, evidence gathering, evidence sharing, but also recognising, what's working and what's not working in different parts of the world affected by, similar issues.
Absolutely, Greg. Yeah, I mean, obviously myself and Paul are on our way to Canada as we speak. We've been funded by the CAFA team within Ulster University to travel to Canada to meet with some of the experts that actually attended and came over for the international conference last year. The research trip is really kind of two-pronged. Paul will talk to you about his in a minute, but basically we're looking at the geological sort of science from Paul's point of view, and I'm looking at the societal impact. So we're trying to learn from what happened in Canada, the approach the Canadian government took, what worked, what didn't work, and really take a lot of the learnings back to see what we can learn from and how we can inform ideally policy from a sort of government perspective. We want to come back and see what can we do to help. I mean, particularly from my point of view, I'm particularly interested in the impact it's had on the commercial properties, for example, for business. And I was meeting with key stakeholders and other researchers who've looked at that in Canada.
Paul, how similar or is the environment that you're travelling to now that created this crisis as to what we see here? Was it ignorance? Was it bad science? Was it poor oversight?
It's probably a mixture of all that, actually, to be honest. I know that, one of the reasons why I wanted to go across is to try and understand, how did the Canadian quarry industry approach science, when they found it, they had an issue because it seems to be very different from what's happened here. Because we know that the quarry in question collaborates quite strongly with Laval University. So they've reached out to the scientific community to try and understand what the problem is. And as a consequence of that, Laval University has been at the sort of forefront of developing sort of fairly high-tech testing in their laboratories to understand the reactivity of aggregates that are used in concrete. So quite interesting going across to find out how that process works. I know that different continents, they've got different standards. They didn't follow the European standard for total sulphur, for example, the one that we've talked about before, EN 12620. But they have developed their own regulations. And Professor Benoit Fournier, who you've met before when he came across the conference, sits on the standards committees to develop new standards in Canada to try and protect citizens so this doesn't happen again. So quite interested in trying to find out how that process works in terms of oversight and regulatory processes, but also how the operators have reached into the science community to try and help understand what's going on, to try and avoid it happening again. So very interesting parallels in terms of how things have happened between Ireland and internationally in Canada. And that's why this research is important.
Yeah, and it's really, I haven't really heard that angle before. I suppose here, if we are to ensure something like this never happens again, how can you do it without the involvement of Ground Zero in terms of, you know, the materials, the practices, things like that?
Yeah. I mean, for example, when Massachusetts and Connecticut had their problem, obviously they went through the same sort of lobbying process that's happened here in Ireland. But the Senate in America basically asked the United States Geological Survey to try and do a baseline survey of where pyrrhotite is happening in the contiguous states across the United States of America. And they've produced their first map of where pyrrhotite is present. The idea there is to try and so that can be used by the aggregates industry in the states to try and avoid another scenario happening. That's happened in Connecticut and Massachusetts, where 30,000 homes have been absolutely destroyed by pyrrhotite and basement concrete. So there's a lot to be learned internationally in terms of best practice. So that's one of the angles that I'm going across. I mean, the other thing is that Laval University are a research partner in our Geological Survey of Ireland funded research project, and they are now doing tests on concrete blocks, foundation concrete, but also their main role is they're testing aggregates that we sent across to them. I think we sent about 0.5 ton of aggregates across from different sources in Donegal to test. So we want to go into the laboratory, see how that analysis is going.
How were homeowners treated? What have we learned so far in that regard, Eileen? Affected homeowners, were they treated as victims? What kind of supports were they given? Did they have to battle for justice, or what do we know?
They had to go down the legal route, from my understanding. Again, that's kind of one of the things that we will try to explore in greater detail. Yeah, I mean, but ultimately, when it comes to research, we have to look at how different and how divergent the Canadian government has been to the Irish government in terms of they have absolutely provided funding for research in this area, not just from a scientific point of view, but from across the whole spectrum of society. So that's something that we want to bring back and, again, hopefully influence the approach that the Irish government will take about taking this seriously. I mean, the fact that we have such a knowledge base in this in the Northwest, and that we're still struggling to get any research funding outside of the research funding that Paul has been and his team have got. But in terms of society, there's very little research from the government's point of view, and I think it's really, we're trying to highlight that the absolute need for doing that as well, if we really have to see an impact upon positive change.
Yeah, and Paul, finally, I just don't know if the pace of this and the science and the learning that's happening, it can't be ignored any longer. This bizarre situation where we have like a super highway of what's going on with the type of stuff you're doing, and then, you know, a congested slow lane as to how we are reacting to it as a state. I just don't know how long it can be treated like this. Do you get where I'm coming from?
Yeah, no, I mean, I absolutely do. I just think there's been, the whole entire approach to this has been sort of, government has been sort of dragged along, kicking and screaming, really, to try and understand what's going on. I think it's a good start has been made by the Geological Survey of Ireland in terms of that research project that's been funded, because ultimately, once you have sort of a research project as large as the one that we're doing, I mean, it's a €500,000 project. things then can start feeding off from that, because once you have actual solid data on what actually the cause of this is happening, then you can start asking the other questions about, what do we need to do now to start avoiding this? So I would sort of be hopeful that government-funded agencies like the Science Foundation of Ireland would be lobbying and to try and understand what's happening, how we can sort of use the research project that we're doing and the other stuff that we're doing internationally with these teams in Naval. How can we use that as a launch pad to try and address other key questions on the ground in terms of the geology? But, I mean, as Eileen was saying, I mean, there's other shortfalls in terms of other knowledge that we need. You know, like we're doing joint supervised PhD with the psychology department and Ulster University as well too. Again, Ulster University is leading the way, trying to understand the psychological impacts of that, and Dr. Karen Kirby is leading on that research to try and understand the mental health impacts. But I mean, that's another massive research area. Yeah. There's another massive research area around what's happening with the business community here. We all know the businesses and public buildings are impacted by this, but there is no research done on that. There's been no research on the impact on this crisis on the housing market. I mean, Donegal housing market has collapsed because of this. No research again. So all we can sort of hope for as a professional researchers is that the stuff that we're doing now can sort of launch new research programs into the future. That's all we can do.
Interesting stuff as always. Hopefully we might be able to catch up with you after you return. Professor Paul Dunlop of the School of Geography and Environmental Sciences at Ulster University and Dr. Eileen Doherty, lecturer at Ulster, University of Ulster. Both of you, safe journeys onwards to Canada, and thank you so much for your time today at the airport. You might be interested in this, listeners. There's a programme on Primetime focusing on this. Every little bit helps. It's called The Defective Concrete Crisis. It's Primetime tonight, the 5th of September at 9:35 on RTE1. So it'll be interesting to see how they advance the story there. Now, our competition winner today, Jim McGuinness, was the correct answer, of course. Julia McFadden from Breena, you are in the draw for that 3 months membership. That's going to be announced for you. That's going to be drawn on Friday. Thank you to Niamh Shields and Caroline Orr, researcher and producer on the 9 till Noon show. John Bredson's around the Northwest after the news at 12. For me, Greg Hughes, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday.